like to call to order the budget workshop of the North Branford Town Council. It is Thursday, April 10th, 2025. It is 6:31. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Angeloni.
Here.
Councilor Abelson.
Here.
Councilor Diamond.
Here.
Councilor Goad.
Here.
Councilor Miller.
Here.
Councilor Paligia.
Here.
Okay. First item, next item is budget overview for the 25-26 budget. We're going to start with, on the town side, we had a bunch of questions from on Tuesday night. So we'll start with whatever answers you have for us in regards to those questions.
Sure. Do you want me to just run down what I have, or do you want to go through your questions?
No, you can.
I'll go through what I have, and if I missed anything,
Yeah.
sure, bring you back on track here. For mayor and council, there was discussion about the reduction in the clerk line from 28 to 16, and so you have a motion before you that would certainly be fine, and we're good with that. And,
We don't have any of the motions yet.
oh, they were.
I know Anthony showed them to me, but he didn't pen them out.
Okay. Well, you'll be getting them, so I'm sure he's not here. All right. So let's talk about him while he's not here in the room. When he comes back, I'll make sure all the counselors are provided that. But so that's fine. There was an associated FICA adjustment of $45 that would go with that. Also, that'll be in the motions that you have before you. Correction on the plaques pins from $3 to $300, correcting that error, so the motion that we will have for you addresses an addition of $297. Also, the budget books reduction, we have a motion drafted to reduce that by $499. I think that was all the ones on the mayor and council. Town manager side, printing and binding, we're going to have a motion for you to drafted to reduce that line by $562. There are also questions on the pre-employment physicals. I think I could ask Rory to come up and address them. Right behind you.
So I just asked that any department head that is coming up to speak, you either have to sit at the desk and speak into that microphone or stand where Rory is standing. And this is not so that we can hear in this room, it's so that they can hear filming at home. So you need to speak into that. And the other part of that is we cannot have sidebar conversations up here because they can hear that at home, not necessarily what you're saying, but it mutes out. And then if there's any other type of laughing or whatever, that kind of takes over. So I'm just directing it to the whole council, please, on there. So, good.
I'll talk to Anthony.
So we budgeted for approximately 30 pre-employment physicals, background checks, drug screen physicals. In fiscal year 23-24, we had 32, and thus far we have 23 this year, and we're expecting, with summer camp and some other things coming up, to probably approach that.
Okay. So do they get physicals only when they're offered the position? Is that it?
Correct.
Correct, okay. But this encompasses part-timers then for
Correct.
camps and stuff?
And
okay.
seasonals, yeah.
Seasonal, okay. Okay, all right, thank you. So before you continue, Anthony, can you pass out the motion so we can kind of follow along?
And his order might be different than mine, but.
Thank you. Not too great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the two, well, I guess motion number 1 is for the reduction in the clerk meetings from 28 to 16. So that would be 12 meetings, but this $1,600 doesn't agree to our budget book, because if it's $250 a meeting and you're reducing it by 12, shouldn't that be $3,000?
Yeah, you are correct.
Okay, so motion 1 should be $3,000, so that is going to change motion 2.
Yep.
Motion 3 is the reduction in budget books printed. Okay, so what did we go down to? Because this is an odd number, $499, if it's $12.50 a budget book.
So you're in the council one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the first cut I had done was gone from 28 to 16, came to 50. Yeah, no, you're correct. That's the wrong number. I went to 35 and 25. It was previously 50 and 50,
Right,
so I went down to 35 and 25.
so that's 15 and 25 is 40 times 1250, so it would come out to $499. That's $500. So
So the revised number is going to be 751 on that line, down from 1250. That's where the 499 comes in.
what, you said you're reducing it by,
I went down to from 50 and 50 to 35 and 25.
right, so that's 15 and 25. You're reducing it, and it's the same cost, so 15 plus 25 is 40 books.
Right.
Times 1250 is $500, so it would be over, okay, just wait. It's a reduction of 40. So so it's $500 either way.
It must be rounding in Excel. That's why it's 499.
Okay.
You can make it 500.
So the FICA would be just the 3,000 times the 0765?
Yep. No, 0.145.
What is it?
0.0145.
So it's just the Medicare part?
Yeah.
So that should be 40. Well, that can't be right, because on 1,600 it was 47.
Yeah, I think what happened was I looked at the line just for the clerk versus the line for the total for that part-time line. That's where the difference came in.
Okay. Right, so that cut should be $3,000
Mm-hmm.
times the 145.
Correct.
So it's $44.
Correct.
All right, so, and motion 4 is for the other part, the contractual for others, under other contractual, so that's fine. Okay. Okay, so now we have 2 motions here to reduce the number of budget books printed. So which one are we using, number 3 or number 5?
One is your budget and one's Mike's budget.
So,
5 is the manager's budget, reducing those, and 3 is your budget books getting reduced. And on Mike's, I just touched the manager budget and went from 120 down to 75. I left the CIP and the annual report numbers alone. Just cut the manager's budget from 120 down to 75.
okay. All right. So now we're up to motion 6 on here under town manager, other contractual.
And talking with Rory, there's a suggestion to take $1,000 off that other contractual, the hiring expenses.
Okay. Okay. Motion 7 is in central services in the telephone.
Right. Part of your suggestion was to consolidate the bill, so in doing that, the central service number went up. Kind of leads into another conversation that we've had a couple times now about creating a new department to put all the utilities into one spot. I mean, if we're looking for, let's say, telephone, for example, we got to check, 7 different spots, each department that's got a telephone account, whereas if we had one department with, a sub-department being able to still track it to whether it's, central service, police, manager, town hall, whatever it is, there's a way through Munis to do that. And there's also some, we're trying to get to the next level using the Munis product a little more smartly and smarter. And the last 3 digits, one of the things we're looking at doing, there was a question in the back here about Reynolds Beer's house. I forget what number it was in the motions. And currently it requires going through, numerous accounts and things like that, whereas we're proposing to use those last 3 digits as location codes. So whether it's electricity, whether it's sewer, whatever the case may be, for, let's say, Atwater Library, that would be building 012. If you sorted it, ran a report by building 012, you would see all the costs associated with Atwater. Right now, even library is kind of blended together. So you'd be able to make, let's say, 011 would be Smith, 012 would be Atwater, and you could break it up and get greater detail, and use some of the power of the program to simplify our life when it comes to things like what's the gas account for this building? Okay, well, if you went to say 001 was town hall, you can go to that account and capture all the costs associated with one building, and still be able to sort it out multiple different ways, but it does kind of capture the cost in a way that kind of simplifies things and makes things easier to look up and come back to with answers. Again, whether it's the public works, police, whatever else, there's everything can have a code, and you can track it by that last 3 digits being the location code, and give you some greater information as you're making decisions.
Okay. So we're adding 11,652 to central services, but then I see
There's a few
there's other motions to take it out of corresponding departments.
That's correct.
So I see a 7,038.50, so that's 10,850, 11,000 there.
That same logic, based on your conversation the other night, talks about the facility maintenance where you're gonna see credits, reductions of the budget in things like Park and Rec, library, central services, and moving those over to, as Fran already had them in his budget, kind of correcting the individual departments' numbers, putting them in one spot. Similarly, we did that with, what else we do that with? Some of the data processing costs that we had to go back and adjust, again, to kind of consolidate them into one spot. Again, you see telephone a couple different times in there. We did update this. Some of these corrections on here are for the prices that Michael was able to lock in for the fuels, whether it's gas, diesel, or heating oil, or propane. So several of these corrections on here are not truly corrections. They're basically reflecting the locked-in fuel accounts. You can see that on there. So it's kind of a mixed bag of some of the things that we talked about the other night. There were some corrections, some additional reductions, and working with some of the department heads, we were able to find a couple other things to take off and just try to catch us up. Eliminate the cable TV was one of the things that was talked about, so that cable TV is out. There are several buildings that are going to be getting the town fiber, so that's handled one way. Those that are not getting the town fiber, we're contemplating putting in, giving them an allowance for getting, let's say, a YouTube account or a Hulu account or something like that to replace the cable TV. It'll save us money and still provide them with the ability to have television to watch when they're there.
Are you talking firehouses or everything?
Firehouses. There's, that's entry, for, 28 takes away, it's a $7,000 reduction. Takes away Comcast TV at firehouses. And then you'll see, I believe there's 30 includes a increase to give them $100 for each of the 3 firehouses per month to get their own like Hulu account or something in lieu of the cable TV. So you see we're knocking out 7,000 and putting back in 3,600. So it's a slight savings, but it gets us off the cable TV world and into the streaming world. Doing that similarly, I believe, at Park and Rec. Park and Rec is a different animal. They're kind of similar to Public Works, where they're going to get the town fiber. So that's going to be handled a little bit differently, but again, getting us out of the cable TV world and for the senior center to be able to have TV for the seniors, as well as internet for folks that they wanted to do streaming on their own devices when they came in and exercised. And then the very, I think the last one, 50, is the adding of the operating transfer out to the community gift fund, the $3,000 that you mentioned the other night.
Yeah.
So that's that one. I tried to shade them every other one so they're kind of easy to, hopefully, to follow. I know it's a lot. I can make it even wider if you want a bigger space in between them, if they're hard to follow.
So, what's the flavor? Do you want to do motions tonight or just wait until we have everything and make all the motions on the 26th?
I think we'll wait.
I agree.
Okay. That's fine. So we have, I know we have, so the whole thing with the maintenance on the accounts in the various departments and then going over to Franny's
Right.
account. Can you just go over that as far as where they are on,
On the numbers?
yeah, just so that we can kind of see.
In,
So is the first one number 10?
well, number 9 before that, there was the reduction you had in central services for the other buildings. It was previously 1,000, bring it down to 500. So that's the $500 cut there.
Okay,
Then line 10, you're correct, entry 10 takes it out of central services and puts it into public works
okay,
for central service items. At line 25, entry 25, transfers 2,000 from the PD to public works. Line 35 takes it, Fran's number that he had in there was slightly off by $900, so I made that correction to bring it down. When you add all the other pieces together, it was off a little bit. Line 42 takes the $11,000 out of the library that was previously identified. Entry 46 takes 14.3 out of Park and Rec and gives that to the Public Works. And
but does that, okay, so on library, does that take everything out of library? Was that the?
Negative, no.
So you left something in library and,
Yep, exactly. In the case of the library, we left like the elevator maintenance, pest control, things that don't run through Public Works. That same logic we used on all the other departments.
But Franny the other night talked about keeping $1,000, $1,500, something in their accounts for
Correct.
small items that they don't, that Public Works doesn't handle as far as that. But 11,000 seems like, on the library, I just remember that number.
Mhm.
Like, that seemed to be their number of, that you took everything out.
No, I'll find it for you.
I mean, all these departments are still gonna be doing their basic maintenance, isn't it, dumping this all on the public work? right?
Well, that's what I want to make sure.
I mean, everybody should still be kind of doing everything except for the major stuff.
And this is the library one, for example. Building repairs, heating AC,
Right.
11,000. And then the contract stays in, the vertical access stays in, the sewer pump out stay in.
Right, so this 11,000, I believe, Franny, where's Franny? Okay. So you were talking about, like, out of that $11,000, not putting the whole 11,000 into Public Works, leaving some money in library.
Correct. Anything that they have contracts with. So
But-
like the elevators.
Well, that was separate out of that 11, that's listed separately in the library for their elevators and whatever else. So that's not part of the 11,000. But you were talking the other night about, like, incidentals.
Yeah,
That-
I think Laura's right there. I think she's got.
You actually had 12 in your budget for her.
Yes, you are correct. If you took out 11,000, it wouldn't leave any money left over for small maintenance repairs that, like, our custodian would do. The 5,400 is basically contract stuff,
Right,
septic
that's
pump
what I
outs.
thought.
So perhaps a smaller amount could be deducted from the 11,000 to cover smaller maintenance projects that we could do in-house.
I thought that
without-
was the conversation, is to leave something in there. All right, so we'll review that and see what we have to do. Because if we make the motion as is, then it'll end up, they'll have nothing.
So should we be seeing another account that offsets this?
Well,
Fran already had them accounted for in his facility maintenance, so it was double counted.
Oh, okay.
It was
All right.
double counted.
All right, I missed that.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Franny had it in his, but they still had it in all the departments.
Okay.
But is the public works gonna be taking on a lot more work in all these departments?
We're doing it now anyway. Everything that Kenny does, that's the money that we're getting. So no matter what, the stuff that we're not getting is all their contractual stuff, like the elevator, for example, we can't work on that, you have to be certified. So the elevator, the lifts, that all has to be done by a certified guy. Anything else, like their fire extinguisher inspections are all on the department. Anything that he's fixing or whatever, doorknobs and heating and air conditioning, all that stuff, we already do that.
You guys handle all that?
Right, so all we're doing is taking that money and putting it in my budget instead of, it's like a circle of life, you know, we're getting bills and we're passing them around, and so we get the bill now, and we're just charging the account that we make up. So it'd be a negative number, it'd be a pool of money that you'd be taking out to fix whatever at the library, and it goes into the library as a negative number, so you guys will see, or anybody can see that we spent $11,000 at the library for maintenance. So there's actually, I think that we didn't account for both of them, so it would be separated, like Smith and then Atwater. And the police department. The police department this year was, we just put 2,000 in because they're still under warranty for a little while. So, you know, that number's gonna change as, and Jimmy's got some contracts already for some of the maintenance anyway. So anything that's contracted, that's not in our budget.
Okay, thanks. Okay. All right, so we'll review this offline, and if we have any questions, we can ask, but we'll come back to this and make the motions when we finalize the budget on the 22nd. So does anyone have any other questions related to the town budget at all?
I do.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know if Louisa is here.
Is Louisa Breen?
She's here.
Yep, there she is.
I just would like to know the rationale for your request to add to the part-time person, because I've received some comments and questions from people, and I'd like to understand your reasoning for that.
Between 2012 and today, we've had a 58% increase in caseload reported to me by the state of Connecticut. So they're not my numbers, it's a non-biased numbers. And when you look at full-time equivalents to area towns to us, for every 3 people that I see, area towns are doing about 1. So our caseload is high, and we're just looking to meet the needs of the community. The need is there. We do a little bit more, too, than some area towns without offending them. We also help area towns when they have, you know, one town had called me and said they didn't know anything about relocation. They were required to be an officer, so I provided them with all our policies and the forms that I had developed because it's just good to help out neighboring towns and people as well.
So it's a workload and the need.
It is. I have about 800 active cases, and we're trying to move our paper files into digital files. So that's what you do in between.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that budget, under social services, the original request, which was to increase her clerk support, upped it to $24,800, and it was reduced down to $12,500, which is the current level. So, can we get the numbers for our next report as to what the increase would be, to increase that along with any associated
Yep.
Social Security and everything else on that, just to have that motion
Thank you.
on there. Does anyone else have any questions? I know Marie wasn't here the other night, so we went through the town budget pretty thoroughly, and as a result is these motions, some of these motions here. I know this is not all of them. So one thing you'll notice, it's motion 19 is one of the things that was brought up was on the town attorney, the number of contracts that we have up for negotiation and the amount that was in there. The town manager did talk to the town attorney, and we are able to reduce that by $20,000 on there. So that was That's a good thing when we go through and do all of the motions.
And I would want to note, if I could, Madam Mayor, in talking with him, he did recommend leaving like that 6,000 in there just in case while we're not doing any contract negotiations for collective bargaining agreements next year, we could have memorandums of understanding or grievances and things associated with those collective bargaining agreements. So it's just to keep that remaining funding there for that.
Okay. So, one thing I noticed on these motions here were, that's not on here, that we need to get some additional information, and we may have that tonight also, is, there was 2 positions that we talked about.
Yes.
One of them was an increase in the finance department from a current employee from part-time to full-time, and the other one is a reduction in the building department on the part-time building official, going from eliminating the position because of the premise of the position, why that position was put in there a few years ago. So I know just prior to the meeting, Chris the town engineer had handed out paperwork here in regards to the building department. So, Chris, if you would just like to.
Sure, yep. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through the process of building permits. We'll go through the table, and then we'll talk about the issues with eliminating position. So first, the process of accepting a building permit application. We then have to review the plans, and if there's any code issues, we have the applicant then resubmit, so we'd have to re-review the plans for code compliance. Sometimes it includes a site visit and a pre-construction meeting prior to issuing the permits. Then inspections are generally a minimum of 2 visits per permit. And if the work doesn't meet code, we must go back to review the code and then discuss what potential remedies there are for the contractor. And you can generally can only complete 5 to 6 inspections per day per inspector. So then once the permit is acceptable, the work is acceptable, then we go into our permit link process online and then input all of the inspection details to make sure that those are all contained in the building permit. And then we can close out the permit and issue the certificate of compliance, completion, and the certificate of occupancy. We also have to have coverage for vacations and lunch. So then if we take a look at the table, you can see that the permits are increasing generally over the past 9 years, I think is the number of data that we have there. And just in this past quarter alone, we've had 318 permits, which is the highest for this period for the past 9 years. And with the increasing number of permits, as well as the increase in cost of materials, you can see that the revenue has increased significantly over the past few years, and with the 2 highest years being the last 2 years. I just want to point out that this does not include any permit fees for the high school or the police department, because those were waived for the local fees. So the revenue numbers you see do not include any permit fees associated with those projects. So if you, let's see. So that's it for the table. So if you take a look at the permit numbers as well as the revenue are presented on those tables. So the issues with eliminating the part-time inspector would be decrease in customer service. Inspections would go from generally 1 week up to 3 weeks because we wouldn't be able to do all the inspections that are required of the permits that we get. And then we will also need to increase the consultant fees that we have because that's how we would have to cover the office for vacations or sick time if we did not have the part-time inspector. And overall, it's very difficult to find anybody available for that type of position. And it's also very expensive. We also have some upcoming significant projects. We have the Public Works addition, as well as the RWA is doing an upgrade to the treatment plant. And there's also a significant electrical project for the Milford Barrel Company. I want to also point out that this position does not receive any benefits or time off, paid time off. And we also are now, with the new blight ordinance, as an additional burden on the department that we have to make sure. One of the big issues right now is compliance at the plaza. And we've been spending quite a bit of time in there making sure that it's safe to be able to go into the businesses and to work with the owner as well as the contractor to make sure that it's up to code and also safe for people to go to. As you can see, the revenues cover the cost of running the department, including the part-time inspector. We also have to have office hours to meet with contractors as they come in if they have questions. And having the part-time building inspector is the most cost-effective way to meet the needs of the department. Thank you. If you have any questions, we also have the building official here as well.
Okay. So what percentage of the permits actually require inspections?
All of them.
Every permit you have to go out and inspect?
Yes.
Yes, 100%, every permit. Yep. Every permit.
So a lighting, if they do one for lighting, you have to go out and...
Yes, absolutely. You have to do a rough inspection and a final inspection.
Okay, okay.
Because that would include potentially electrical upgrades as well, so we want to make sure that that's approved and up to code.
Okay. Does anyone else have any?
Yeah, so what's the job description of this position?
I believe it's assistant building official.
It's a part-time building official.
And it was put in place for,
We added it when we did the high school.
right, and it was, I
The
believe it
police
was
department.
stated that it was to help facilitate that work in addition to some of the paperwork also for the state and things? Was that part of this?
I haven't seen that original
I don't think so.
request or...
So I guess the question I have is, what did we do before this?
We have less permits to process.
The other thing is the lead time on the inspection process. We've got a home builder here in town, who lives in town, who's building homes on Tucket Road. The lead time, we'll say for like a nailing inspection on plywood on the outside of your home, would be 2 weeks out, 2 to 3 weeks out. So just to look at plywood that's been nailed off properly. So there were extended lead times.
How many work out of your office now?
1.5.
1.5, that's okay. I just want to make sure I was reading this right, because I was like...
Slightly less than half. I think it's 18 hours a week.
There was a part-time building official probably 25 years ago as well.
Well, I recall when we put this, when this position was filled, it was for a specific time frame.
That's why I remember also,
That
yes,
there was gonna be an end to it.
right.
And it
Yeah.
was pretty much when the high school and the police department were at the completion phase.
Right,
That's
what
as I recall.
That's what I remember also, yes. So,
Would you mind giving me just a quick description of, if I come for a building permit, what would be the basic time that you would account for doing that? Or say I was doing a kitchen over.
Yep.
Come for the permit, now you come out.
Well, if you were to come into the office, what would happen would be, you would ask, hey, how do I apply for a building permit? I tell you the process. You go to the kiosk, you get registered, you go and you fill out your permit for your building. Then if you're doing plumbing, you fill out a separate permit for your plumbing, and then if you're doing electrical, you do a separate permit for electrical.
But I mean, what you would be doing, like, what would you, like, when I walk in and I get a building permit for a kitchen,
Okay.
what are you gonna be your responsibilities to me? Like, how many different times do you have, like, you have to spend with me?
With you? Okay. So we'll say the administrative assistant would handle the paperwork end.
Yep.
Okay? I would take and I would review the paperwork, issue all 3 permits. Okay? Then when you were ready, you would give me a call and say, we're ready for a rough inspection. I would come out, I would do a rough electrical, rough plumbing, rough framing inspection. Okay? Once that's completed, as long as you pass, I don't need to come back until you have your finishes installed. Okay? But if you don't pass, I need to tell you what you did wrong and cite the code citation if you should challenge my decision or what I find wrong. And that can take some time sometimes.
So you basically have to come out to see me basically probably around 3 times and whatever paperwork you have to do those 3 times.
4 times, yeah, because if you don't pass, then if I go back and you don't pass again, I have to go back again.
Right.
You know, and then in addition to that, you also have an insulation inspection where I have to come and make sure you put the proper
Right.
insulation in, you know?
So you have a few hours into each permit?
Easily, yeah, and there's fire blocking, there's penetration sealing.
But doesn't it depend on what you're doing for a
Sometimes-
remodel? Because if you're just replacing cabinets and a floor and whatever else, you don't need any permit. It says it right online.
That's true, however, the caveat there is you need an electrical permit for almost everything. So one way or another, it all intermingles.
Right, but it depends on a remodel.
Yep.
It depends on what you're exactly doing. On a new
Right.
construction, that's totally different. But if you're switching out your cabinets and you're putting in new flooring and everything else, you don't need a permit for it.
Well, I'm
So-
just like looking at their numbers, like for January, they had 123 permits they gave out. So I'm trying to imagine you have 123 permits, and then you have a few hours worth of inspections, paperwork, and everything else.
Phone
You know,
calls.
so if you say 3 hours of permit with all the little details times 123, you're like almost like 400 hours right there. I'm just trying to get it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then each trades might not be completed at the same time, so you might have to go for a plumbing inspection, then electrical inspection. They might not all be at the same time.
Thank you.
Okay.
You've listed, excuse me, guys. You've listed, I like this chart you guys put together, thank you for doing that. But you listed a bunch of inspections. Any chance you have any idea out of all these inspections that you listed in here, how many of them went towards the high school and police department?
So as far as the high school and the police department, I haven't broken that down, but I can say this. With those numbers, I would say Carl has covered 1/3 of those inspections, and I've done the other 2/3.
So I would think a couple of years back where I think we had the highest, the 1,200 permits, inspections, I think permits. That would probably be the highest rate at the high school.
I'm confused, I'm sorry.
It's
So
on the-
1,200,
It's on the back
Chart,
side.
right? There was a couple of years ago, the highest number was like 1,200, I believe, right?
2021.
2021, and that's where I think the high school was in the full production, full construction.
so out of that 1,200, how many were the high school and
We can
PD?
get that number for you, I think we.
Yeah, we can get that number, yeah.
I think that would be useful for us, because that's what we're assessing is the position was brought on for that. So if that's over and those inspections are gonna go away, we want a real number that we're looking at moving forward.
Go ahead.
So if you look at the years 23 and 24, there really weren't any high school inspections to speak of. It was very, very minimal at that time, I believe, because it was just kind of wrapping up. So those are real numbers, 1,100 and 1,140, 1,133. Those would essentially be the number of permits issued without the high school being involved. So there's just been a lot of work going on in town recently.
And these are, calendar year, okay.
Yeah, calendar year, yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions in regards to this? Okay, thank you.
Looks that way.
Okay, so the other position was in finance, in regards to going from part-time to full-time.
So, as everybody I'm sure is aware, half our department was transitioned in the last couple of years, our 4-person department. 2 people were brand new, still learning the ropes. We were swamped. We had a temporary person in between our last accountant and the current accountant who made quite a mess of things that we're still trying to unravel. And we have a temporary person there helping us now with bank recs. And the hope would be that once we get the process in place, we've had numerous days of Munis training in the last week. Once this person has a grasp on the system and able to relay the proper steps to all of us, one of the tasks that Terry going to full-time would help out would be portions of the bank rec. Obviously, the bank rec would still fall on the staff accountant, but there's a lot of steps, especially in the importing of checks. Right now, we are getting there's Munis accounts payable checks that from the Board of Ed come over, and our checks are Munis checks. Our payroll checks are Munis checks. The Board of Ed checks are still on their old system still, so it's a manual entry, and obviously you know the number of employees the Board of Ed has compared to us, to manually have to go in and to verify those checks have cleared because they're not Munis system checks that can be imported into the Munis software. So the bank rec process, well, it sounds like it might be a simplified, step, really is rather labor intensive. And again, the gentleman we have there working now, trying to get us caught up, is really doing a great job unraveling some of the situations. Additionally, we have multiple Excel spreadsheets. Cash comes in, we have our massive cash spreadsheet with the 40 or 50 funds on it, and then from each of those is a sub spreadsheet. So, okay, it goes and we had an expenditure in the 24-25 capital improvement program. Okay, it's on the cash spreadsheet that way. Then you got to go to the 24-25 cash spreadsheet and say which project was it in. Was it X, Y, or Z? And then they have to all mesh, obviously, and become one unified number. So there's a lot of steps involved. And again, one of the things that Debbie's trying to do also is trying to simplify life. Again, is there a way to link these spreadsheets, hopefully, that we can get it, simplify the process? But there's just a ton of work over there that we are still digging out from the transition of people. And previously, we had talked to Terry about trying to go full-time. Her kids were younger. It wasn't really a right time. And now she has the bandwidth to do it. And I think it'd be a smart move for us to bring her from the 28 to 35 hours to hopefully, once we get in a good place, not to lose momentum and keep that good thing going, keep our financial records intact. Because right now, the comfort level is minimal until we get things squared away. And we just had more days of training last week on closing the book. Michael, Dennis, myself, Debbie. There were multiple, to the tune of hundreds of items we had to go in and fix because the initial setup of Munis wasn't done properly. So things that should have hit this account were hitting this account. We had to go in and touch every transaction, every invoice, and put them to the right account. It's the stress over there is crazy because, again, there's not a huge cushion or comfort factor that what we have going on there until we can get our act together and get on the right track. The confidence level is low. So I think once we get caught up and stay caught up, I think this would be a major help to keep us on the right track. She's more than willing to do it. She has the Excel expertise to handle all the spreadsheets we want to give her. I think it'd be a smart move to go to the 28 to 35 hours.
So what's the issue with the Board of Ed checks and our check that, I thought they were on Munis?
Payroll is not.
We implemented it with Fidelity, so for historical reasons, we've had a very smooth transition with Munis. It's working incredibly well for us.
Not your payroll checks, though.
No, payroll will transition.
Well,
We're running in parallel.
Well,
So
So that should be a temporary issue then, right? Is that-
we'll step down with Alio, we'll continue for historical data with that at a much lower cost, and we'll implement Munis in July.
No, the button won't come on board until, won't be ready for parallel testing until August, so we're shooting for January.
So we actually, with this button, we're just recognized nationally for our work and moving that forward. And I'll share that with you when we present ours, but we spent a lot of time. Our staff spent a ton of time with Munis. They wanted to do it the right way, and it's worked. And if we can assist in any way, we will. So
And-
I reach out saying that if we can help, it's a phone call.
Anthony, it seems like what you described is a temporary issue, so have you looked at bringing in temporary help to help you? Because
we have a gentleman there now.
Because the thing is, once you bring somebody from part-time to full-time, it usually doesn't go away. It usually stays that way. Once you get caught up on the workflow, now we have potentially,
Right.
Too many work hours there for what the work is. And I doubt very highly that you'll come back to us and ask her to go part-time again at that point. And then we've incurred the expense of benefits and everything else. So if it's a temporary issue, I think we'd be better served by treating it as a temporary issue.
Do you want to give a 6-month till December 31st? Instead of doing a whole year?
I don't know if we can do that without, can we do that on a temporary basis like that without having to give her benefits?
She's already over the limit for
Yeah.
benefits
Oh,
She's already
at
getting
28
them.
hours.
oh, okay.
So
Yeah, we could.
that's not a factor, it's just the hourly
Just the hours?
wage on there.
We could do that if that would increase the comfort level with it. We could, do it to a time certain.
Can you prepare a motion for half year? Because she's in here for a full year.
Correct.
So it would be a decrease from the budget for a half year, to do it for a half year, whatever that effect would
Does
be.
their CBA allow it?
Pardon me?
Does their CBA allow it?
That's a good question. That's a Rory question.
Does the CBA allow?
Going from temporarily full-time back to part-time.
I would think if we were going to do a temporary change, we would handle it as an MOU or something like that, and define the period. And so as long as the union was okay with it, the CBA doesn't, preclude it.
Okay. So if you can just check that out before the next meeting, that would be great. Okay. All right. So between those were the two positions and the sheet of motions.
And I'll fix that first motion too, so it's correct.
That should cover the rest of the questions that we had.
One other question, Ann. Have there been any other departments in town that have kind of chipped in on their end to help you guys with this stuff? As far
I
as
would say, yeah, Michael Fubiati in purchasing, Dennis Panone. I mean, the Munis web is a tangled web, and we have weekly meetings. Mike, we all sit in this room. We have a list of I don't know how many items on the list that Dennis has a running list that we try to tackle one at a time. And it's been a collaborative effort amongst again Mike, Rory, Michael, Debbie, myself, we meet and Jill, once a week, we sit here and go over the munis problems.
Seems like this is like it happens all the time, we just constantly hear about munis, just
It's-
nightmare nonstop. So basically.
If I knew now what I knew then.
It's a mistake.
Or then, well, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, I just say it's more complex than I think we thought.
But it's a mess right now, right?
It's not.
And it's
It
not
is,
a
but
mess this week.
we've
or
definitely
this
made a
past
lot of
month.
progress in the last, particularly in the last few months, and then approving that, that added PACE program definitely is putting us on the right track. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but. Yeah.
You funny, funny boy.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions in regards to the town operation?
I watched part of it. What about the fire department? I know you had said something about them having to come back. I don't know, where does that stand?
With cuts?
Are you asking them to come back with?
Yes, it's not on here, so it's coming for the next, it's still,
For the next, okay, I'm just curious.
it's not part of these motions here.
Yeah,
so.
their cuts are on there. Their
they are?
additional cuts are,
Fire department, oh yes, starting at 28.
yeah, the 7, and then 33. So that the 7 and 13 equal that 20 that you were looking to pick out. And then the other two, 31 and 32, are just a function of the fuel pricing. And then there was an 29 is fire. Talks about there was an estimate for copier usage that was overstated. Yeah, those are the 4 or 5 motions talk about the fire department.
Okay, is there anything in our leases with the firehouses that say anything to do with what we have to provide them for
Yeah.
TV or whatever?
I think it just says generically TV, it doesn't say whether you're using Comcast or a streaming service. So I think we're going to be covered, and Michael's working with, we're in the process of, the leases are up for renewal anyway. So Michael's working with the town attorney to get the proper language to kind of broaden it to say.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
that
We're
is
gonna change it
covered.
all to the streaming, or credit towards
Okay.
being used to do that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if there's no other questions on the town side, then we will move over. Now we will go to the Board of Education.
Marie, did that answer your question? Did you have something to say about the fire, more about the fire department?
I was just curious as to how they were gonna handle the 20,000.
Which is in here.
Yeah, okay.
So Mayor, just to be clear, the 2 additional ones you want are a motion to add Louisa, to restore her clerk what she wanted, and to change Terry from full year to half year.
Right, if it's possible.
Yep. Okay.
Well, and the figures, if we were to eliminate the part-time building, like, just so we have it, so we can see once what it looks, what it is.
Got it.
And then public comments at the end, sorry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's like everything else. I did that a week ago. I had to go my whole weekend going through all this. Why don't we like at least 3-4 days ahead?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
If you could, that'd be great.
Thank you, sir.
Huh? This was emailed to us too. Was it?
How many reams of paper did you use?
I got this.
All right, so I thank you for your patience. At the last meeting, there were 10 questions that were asked at the end of the meeting. I gave Mr. Downs a packet that I assume you received
Yep.
electronically, and you should receive that. In addition to that packet, what I handed out to you tonight is the rest of that information that I didn't have at that time. So if you go through the 10 questions, there was request for information for backfill transportation, for school choice, a lot to do with the electric bills and solar bills. What my recommendation would be for the solar electricity conversation, so we have clarification, understanding, if we could get a meeting together with the electrical company and the solar company to sit and come to a clear understanding for all of that, because we seem to be on different levels of understanding.
Scott,
So
can
that-
you
I
just
think
stand
that
in
might
front
be-
of the microphone, please, because it's for home. It's them filming, or if you take the microphone with you, but
Be like Johnny Cash. All right, I think that's good.
Jesus.
Take that.
Put that on my tab.
That comes out of your budget.
All right, so,
Send you to Folsom.
open choice.
Franny?
Open choice, as you know, we have a number of students who, Chef O'Neill, that we received from New Haven, minority students that come into the district. We have 24 students that get approved each year by the board. We have $3,000 that we receive per student to go towards their educational costs. We do not provide transportation for those students. New Haven does for that, for those students. Pre-K tuition, we have set our number for pre-K tuition. That has been shared at the board level, and I believe you are aware of that, to offset costs for that program. My administrators are here this evening. If you have any questions specific to the questions that you asked me at the last meeting, I'm just going to go through those. Excess costs, it's explained there. If you have questions for anyone that's here, feel free to ask. All of the UI bills are attached. Electricity, solar credits are there with explanations. Student transportation, outside funding, grants, pre-K. How are they shown? That's answered there in detail. Munis, the Munis word. So, as I mentioned, and I'm going to pass this out, that the amount of work that was completed in preparation for this, it was from Tyler Technologies, and it's a thank you note. I'd like to thank your team in North Branford Schools for the work, time, and persistence you put into bringing the employee access punch-in out button into existence. I'm proud to say you've been instrumental in not only getting this on development's radar, but got it pushed to the top of their list of enhancements. It's my privilege to let you know that the button is complete and should be ready by summer's end for all Tyler EERP customers at no cost. You were pivotal in making them see this as an enhancement and not a modification. Thanks again for being influential in this process and getting the win for all clients. Best regards from their manager. So I don't need to pass that out unless you want a copy of it. But as I stated before, it was implemented with fidelity. There was a great deal of training that went into it, countless hours from our team, our accounting team. We're the biggest show in town, as you know, with the most purchases. And we decided that we wanted to transition from Alio over to Munis in a timely fashion so that everyone was prepared when we did it. And at first it was bumpy, and we put a great deal of time in, and we're proud of where we're at with that. And I extend that again. If we can help in any way, we'd be glad to do that with our personnel. I'm not going to read through all the questions. The last request that just came in a day ago was for the last 20 years of enrollment. And I sent you I just handed to you 20 years of enrollment. I closed Stanley T. Williams in 2009, 2010, in my second year here. And we have held steady from 2020 at 1,600 students to 1,570 projected for next year over the last 6 years. So we were in a holding pattern, and as the building inspector shared earlier with the number of permits and houses going up, we estimate in the next 10 to 15 years an increase in our school enrollment as well. Our numbers are showing that. Our K enrollment right now, we're at 102 students right now. For next year, we usually pick up a load of students during the summer month as well. So it's strong right now, and every indication is that our enrollment will continue. I also just attached that we are 13 teachers less over the last 20 years during this time in the core teaching areas. So as we have decreased in enrollment, we have decreased our teaching load as well. We are down 13 teachers right now. We're currently staffed at appropriate levels to maintain our class size at our elementary schools. We offer the full gamut to our students. We're proud to be a comprehensive high school. We just received accreditation again from NEASC with many accommodations. They spend a great deal of time and effort speaking about the state-of-the-art high school, the programs that our students, approximately 500 enrolled, that they have the opportunity to take. I welcome you to come at any time to view the high school, to see the programs that we offer in the elective areas, and those are ones that I really like to focus. I call the ones on the corner. Our culinary classroom is spectacular. We still have a traditional automotive running out of the back of our set design room in the auditorium. We have an engineering program. We have an art program. Just to name a few of the many opportunities for the kids. We're very proud of that, and we'd like to continue to be able to offer those to our students. And we understand there's a cost for doing business. So we're here tonight. You have the 10 questions. You have the 11th question that I just shared with you for the enrollment and staffing and where we're at, and we're here to answer questions.
Okay, so the staffing, according to this, is just NBHS. It's not
Just the
total-
high school.
It's not total staffing.
I just did the high school.
Okay.
I just did the high school. You didn't ask for that?
I didn't ask the question, so
No.
I didn't know what the
No.
question was.
So
So
What was asked of me was the enrollment, and I wanted to show just a quick look at, the closing of Stanley T and then downsizing 13 students. If I go through and look at all the buildings over the last 20 years, our staffing levels are down accordingly.
So what year does the enrollment numbers, do they include your pre-K students?
Yes.
Okay, and so what year did we start the pre-K program? Because that just to have reference, because
What
we
year
now
did,
have
what
3
year did
sections.
pre-K? Beth,
So-
do you
so
know
that's
when we
extra
started pre-K?
students.
2015, going once, 2015.
But 2015, you had the current setup of 3 pre-K 4 and, okay. So when you went to the integrated model, or the model that you currently have, you started out with 1 pre-K 4, and then you added 2 more sections, correct? And at one point in time, your pre-K 3 was half-days, then it went to full-time, then it went back to half-days, 5 days, and now it's going to half-day, 4 days. Correct? Okay. So these numbers reflect the additional students of pre-K 4. We aren't comparing apples to apples because you've added some more sections of pre-K 4 in the recent years. That would be at least 30 students, because if you have 15 in each class, and before you only had 1 section, and I know you had to have that because you had special ed students and then you have the mentors. So yes, you had that, but then you added 2 more sections, so we'll just call it at 30. When did that come into place? 21, 22, 22, 23, I'm not exactly sure. 3 years ago, so including this year, so we're back to like 22, 23 is when we'd have a plus 30 in there. And going forward, okay. Okay. As far as the other information on here, the reason I asked the question on the old NVHS UI building, or UI cost, is because in our last meeting that we had in regards to this, these costs should have went over to the permanent project building. And I can't tell from these invoices how far down all of these invoices would be for the old. It just says old on this top sheet, but how many does it, is it, and what's the total amount on here? Is it?
The easiest way to see the totals for the electricity would be on that spreadsheet that I did specifically for electricity and solar. I believe it breaks costs out for last year by building, and then current, and then proposed.
On the sheet that was,
It's a spreadsheet.
that was given
It should be in the packet.
in this packet, or what was given to the town manager?
Town manager, maybe?
I think it's the one that Scott handed out, isn't it?
It's the one that you got 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, whatever it was.
You have a spreadsheet here.
Yeah, that would have all the totals on it.
Yeah.
No, you mean this one, Tom? Exhibit A here? Are you talking this one? This doesn't break it out on the old high school.
I'll go, but it has it by each of the schools, isn't it?
Yeah, but I-
Harrison, TV, yes.
Right. I asked for the old high school
Oh, okay.
that
yeah.
was tore down,
Yep, yep, yep.
what those energy costs were, because those bills were supposed to go to the Permanent Project Building Committee, because we were told that they were being billed for at least 7 to 9 months for on a building that wasn't there. So if the contractor went into the server, the transformer was still there, and they hooked up for the building of the second phase of the school, then that should go to the project.
Right, okay, yep, I got you.
And so I can't tell that from here. And the spreadsheets that, because I have the spreadsheets that Mike sent to all of us, and you can't tell from that either. I have them here, and I have the spreadsheets. It doesn't say, it doesn't break it down. So I'm exactly sure how we're supposed to read these, or the data on here. Unfortunately, giving us, 100 sheets of paper with nothing to explain what it relates to is hard to
You asked for the
follow.
bills, you wanted all the numbers,
I know,
that's what you got.
but I can't relate it to information that was sent to us. I can't cross-check because I don't know what it goes to on here. It's hard to follow, so not exactly sure if that was the intent.
The intent meaning just to give you a lot of paper?
I'm not sure.
I don't think that was the intent.
I see that I'm trying to follow what you paid to the UI 2-year budget, what you have budgeted. So am I correct in the budget that we received that shows electricity, are you talking UI?
There's UI, there's Wallingford Electric, and there's solar.
Right, so
But
is,
in regard to the old high school, we're talking several fiscal years ago, so
no, we're talking, the information that was given to us, we're talking from July of 20, when did they go down? July of 23
yeah.
to, we were told they stopped getting bills like in February or March of 24 on the old high school.
But our
That-
students were still in the high school.
No, I know.
So we had to pay the electricity bill.
No, not in the part that was, what we were told by your accounts payable person in the meeting in the town manager's office on June 6th of 2024. You were there, Scott was there, Kim Dawson was there, Judy Bannon was there, I was there, Marie was there, Bruce Abelson was there, Anthony was there. This is a meeting that we had on solar and electricity. Lori from your office was there and said that there were UI bills from the old high school that was tore down, that you were receiving bills on that school from when it was tore down to about February or March. So there weren't students in that school because there was no school. So those were the bills that I asked for, so that we can take those bills and put them to the project and you can get reimbursed for them.
Can you put that in writing to Lori specifically, everything you just said with the months, so that you're not getting the totality of everything? If you specifically wanted just that, can you just put it in writing to her so we can specifically get that?
Well,
Okay, so that would be wonderful, because then we'd have it in writing.
Well, no, I just followed the instructions that I was told to do, is to go
You
through.
have them here.
I know, but it's the first, it says that,
It's
but
some
how
work
many
to go
of
through it,
them?
you have to read through them.
I don't know how far down it goes. It just says old NBHS, and there's a lot of UI bills.
Well, it would be 49 Computer Road, right?
Yeah, but the other bills are also 49 Computer Road on the high school that we were in, the new part of the high school.
Okay.
So if there's several meters, I don't know that.
This goes to April. looks like.
Right. And so when I look at the UI bills that we got in the first packet that Mike had sent us, that they gave them, there weren't any UI bills for the auditorium for Jerome or the middle school to show the credit on there. Because on their budget, they have budgeted cost for Jerome Harrison for electricity. So that's why I asked, does that include just the UI? Jerome Harrison is UI. Is it just the electric cost from UI? Because Jerome has a credit. There shouldn't be any bill, according to the information they gave us, as to how much the credit was. So there shouldn't be any bills to Jerome Harrison or to NBIS, because they just told us there were credits, that they still had credits. And then there's solar, which is Altus, which is the actual energy uses. So that's why I wanted clarification as to what is included in those categories.
I started off by saying I would love to get a meeting together with the players that can sit specifically from UI, from the solar company, so there's an understanding. Because when I ask Anthony or Martha or my people, if there's clarity and clarification on understanding the credit, how it works, what's happening, everybody seems to have a different answer. And we're going around and round with this. I think if we could get in the same room, we could easily get an understanding that we all understand. That would be my suggestion.
Can I ask, am I misreading this, that you're still over $300,000? And you have to pay that by the end of June?
So the $300,000 is in anticipation for our invoices through the end of June, but you'll see our year-to-date expenditures are $426,000, which already exceeds our budgeted number. So no matter how you cut that pie, whether it's in electric or solar, we're still over budget, and we still need more money for next year. And that's with the full year.
Wait,
of
but
the
what
credits
about,
included.
I guess I don't understand. I think you'd have to pay all the bills by June 30th. No?
Yes.
And you're saying that your $300,000,
So that encumbrance column, of course, we don't know exactly what the bills for April, May, and June are gonna come in at. So it's an encumbrance, it's an open purchase order with our best guess of what those invoices are gonna come in at. That's what an encumbrance is. Our year-to-date expenditures are actual invoices that have been paid. When you add those two numbers together compared to our current budget, the anticipated overage is $300,000. Our actual year-to-date expenditures are $426,000. Those are bills that are out the door and paid. So when you compare just what we've paid already to what we budgeted, we're already over budget.
so have you encumbered that amount of money towards,
Yes, that's why.
That's all encumbered?
Yeah, exactly. I
Okay,
report to the board every month that we're over on electricity and solar.
okay, so for the 24-25 budget, I'm looking at your status quo budget for 25-26. So you have a column of the current year's budget, and you have for NBIS, electricity, you have budget in this budget, so I'm assuming that that's the budget you're working off of. You have $100,692 budgeted for electricity. But at the meeting that we had on March 25th, you said that you had a credit for UI at that time of
Correct.
over $100,000.
Correct.
So,
But the credit sits on account.
well, that's why I asked, because they don't on the town side. That's why I wanted to see the UI bill, because if you
I
have.
believe we also supplied you with the solar bills as well, so you could see.
Well, I know there would be a
Okay.
solar bill, because that is your electric cost.
Mhm.
Like, the town gets those also.
Yeah,
But you have nothing budgeted for solar for 24-25, which I don't understand what.
because when we did this 12 months ago, I didn't know. Everything was a guess.
No, but at last year's budget, when we went through and we found out about, because on both sides, both the town and the Board of Ed, none of us knew about the solar at that point in time.
No, we did know about the solar fees, because I had increased this current year's budget, and I was directed to reduce electricity and solar by $275,000 for this current year, which I did, and I am now in the red.
No, so our conversation was, how do we get the credits to the Board of Education? Because
And those
UI was
credits
not.
are on our accounts, but they won't just give them all to us at once.
No, they get used down. So if you have a,
Right.
if the credit's 100,
So
I'm just
Jerome
gonna take.
Jerome is our smallest school
Right.
as far as electricity goes. So the amount that the solar produces that's allocated to Jerome is more than we're using. So that credit, it really isn't getting used up. Because say,
But you don't pay a bill to the, you
no,
don't.
we don't, but that, what I'm saying to you is that credit can't be used anywhere else right now but Jerome.
Correct.
Unless we can get it straightened out, that it can be applied to some of our bigger buildings.
Yeah, but my point is, you have, if Jerome has a credit and you're not paying UI,
Mhm.
right now, your budget here for
It's
20.
$50,000.
Right,
Yep.
so you have $50,000 budgeted for Jerome for electricity,
Right,
but
well,
you're not paying them anything.
No, but like I said, no matter how you cut the pie, that 50,000 has to go to solar. So at our board meeting in a couple of weeks, I'm gonna ask for budget transfers to move from electricity into the solar accounts. But the bottom line isn't gonna change. We're still gonna be over.
But, so, in our conversation last year when we went through this, and then we had the meeting in June, the only way we could get you the credit was to allow you, and that was the motion that we made in April, was to allow the 2% fund. And that's where
The
we.
credits aren't money. It's not a check. It sits on our accounts.
I know that, yes.
And I reduced our electricity lines by $275,000 for this current year. I did as I was instructed.
Well, you reduced them, so that means that the 275, we got to you, the only way we could get it to you, because we don't have the money, is that we gave you the money in the 2% fund. We said you can save,
how-
because you would have the
You
money.
can't put a credit in the 2% fund.
No, but we said you should have the money in your balance because you wouldn't have to pay the UI.
And those funds are still sitting in a credit.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to budget for electricity for Jerome because you didn't pay them anything.
But like I said, I'm taking that money and transferring it to the solar fee line. And so in the end, it's still gonna be the same amount. We're still gonna be over.
Well, I personally don't understand, after all this discussion, why you didn't budget for solar, because that's your electric cost. They take how many kilowatts?
Because at this time last year, we were still that much more confused about the whole situation. Probably really not that much more clear now.
That's again why I make it for a third time. Can we get together with those who actually know, who can sit with us and explain all of this, so we're not doing this and we're crystal clear, not on interpretation, not on whatever, that we get what we're, so it's accurate, so we're not doing the same thing next year. If we get UI and the solar company that we're paying to together one time and we ask these questions.
Well, the solar company,
And we-
there's nothing to get to, because they take the
Well,
kilowatt
we have three
hours.
different
Expenditures
explanations.
listed here are actual expenditures for a full fiscal year. So those are 23, 24, those are actual expenditures, credits included. And the same thing for this current year. The actual is from July, and I believe those numbers are through February, or possibly the middle of March. I don't know, I'd have to go back and look. But the point is, those are real numbers. So yes, can I take that 50,000 from Jerome electricity? Absolutely, and I'm going to, in 2 weeks at the board meeting, ask for a transfer to move that $50,000 to the solar electric line. But in the end, it's not gonna make any difference, because we're still gonna be over at the bottom.
Well,
All right, what we need to do is put the brakes on here and have a finance meeting, right?
The solar meeting.
Yeah,
Solar meeting.
yeah, but with the finance group, so they, with Anthony, maybe Rose.
well, that's what we
maybe-
did last year.
Yeah,
No, but we're
some-
way into this now, Rose. Last year, when this was all starting, there's still as much confusion as there was a year ago when we had that meeting. There's more now, because we don't know what can get transferred, what we can use, how we budget it, and we're going around in circles here. So my suggestion would be, for the fourth time, getting together and having a meeting. And then it's,
Before the budget's over, done then.
we'd have to do it in the next 2 weeks.
We can't do it in this format. You
No,
gotta get
this
a
is
smaller group, get it-
painful for, right.
Mail it out.
So, and that's fine, it's fine, but in the end, there's, there was nothing budgeted, and the money that went into the 2% fund on there was to pay for the expenses that were not budgeted for solar. We went through all of this last year on there, but there wasn't anything budgeted. So we'll just have the meeting, we'll go through.
I'm emailing them right now.
Just need to get this ironed out. It can't be.
Well, on the town side, we asked Anthony the other night, and we went through everything, and
Right.
it's, and
So
we're fine.
what's gonna happen here is the town's gonna help the Board of Ed with electricity and solar, and the Board of Ed's gonna help us with munis.
Yeah, but
Problem solved.
I think UI is going to help us, and the solar company are going to help us with, because there's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah. So, we will get a meeting and go through on solar, that's fine, on there.
All right, any other questions of the 10 that were requested, and the enrollment one? I think we're finished with that one. Anything else?
Yes, so on the health insurance.
Health insurance, okay.
So I saw the sheet and everything, and so from the data that was given to us, it looks like 1 year you paid 13 months. And then, so that means you because you paid July and June, which is fine. So the next year, because you already had one paid, you should have just paid 11 on there.
This was all discussed with the auditor, and because 1 year was prepaid with 13, and 1 year was short with 11, it actually balances out.
Correct,
So-
but according to your sheet, it says that you made 12 payments the next year. So that doesn't balance. According to what I read on the sheet, it said 12 payments
All
made.
of the information.
How does this pertain to next year's budget? We keep going back to this, that has nothing to do.
Yes,
We
it
we
does,
need to
because
move
your
to a
health
number.
insurance- Your health insurance increase on your budget for next year shows
Not because of that.
$900,000 increase, which is not all total to the increase that you're actually getting in the premium.
Yeah, so about $400,000 of that is because last year we paid, and for July of this year, we paid in June of 2024, which is no different than the past 18 years that that's been done.
Right, and that's fine as long as you budget for 12, you paid for 12. But 1 year, you budgeted for 12 according to the sheet, and you paid for 13. So
Yes,
that,
and the
so that
auditor
makes it
looked
looks
at
like
that.
you
The
have
auditor
an
looked
extra
at
payment.
that, And there, 1 year there was 13 payments, and 1 year there was 11. So in her eyes, it balanced out. And she's gonna consider the June 2024 payment as a prepaid expense, as it always has been.
Which is fine.
So
I
there
I
really-
understand
there's
that
no
part,
issue.
but then does your budget reflect?
The budget going forward reflects 12 months, July to June.
Right, so if you, so.
But
you
let me
have
ask,
one
is our
extra-
audit complete?
Our audit is complete.
Okay, our audit is complete. It's complete. Is the town's complete?
The was filed with the state of
No.
Connecticut.
No.
The town is not complete. Our audit was complete in when? December?
Prior to, we had our EFS, which is our annual expenditure report, filed with the state prior to December 31st, which is required by law.
Ours is done.
Well,
Is
yeah.
yours done?
No, we know
Oh,
that.
okay. So if you have a question, we have the accountant, you can ask the accountant that
We
question.
have, we've been.
Okay,
we've been
so our
having
audit
that.
is done.
But it's reflecting in your budget
The
that,
budget is reflecting 12 months for next year, as it should be. So
no, but in your increase in your budget,
yeah, it's $800,000. 400,000 of that is the 9% increase that we are anticipating, and the other 400,000 is to add back the June payment that the July payment that I just explained was paid in June of 2024.
right, so this year, there should only be 11 payments instead of 12.
Next year, I have to budget for 12. July to June.
Right, I understand that
So-
part of it. But in the data that you gave us, it was, you have this many payments and you've made 9 and you have 3 more to go, but you have you already paid 1. You started the year off with
I don't
only
know.
owing 11 payments because you paid July in June.
Yeah, and that's why this year was reduced. That's why we're asking for $400,000 more, because this year was reduced, because I paid July and June,
Well,
just like it's been done for the past 18
It-
out of the 20 years.
it's not the, how many payments, it's what you budgeted and what was originally presented to us was
And again, the
12.
auditor reviewed all of that.
Okay, so we will ask the auditor prior to finalizing the budget on here, the basis on.
Well, we wouldn't have been approved for the audit.
Well, we don't have any audit report. The council has not received any audit report at all. So that's what, I will direct it to Anthony, to see what the auditor has come up with on there.
Well, I'm sure we have,
Then that will be
I
clarified.
have an email from Michelle.
right.
Who
We can just forward an email to you.
The auditor.
Well, last year I remember asking that question, and I was told that both come at the same time. We don't
Right,
give one of
right,
those.
that's-
That's probably why we don't have it.
Right, right.
We can forward our email to you tomorrow, that the audit is complete. If that's what you want to see, then that's easy enough to do.
Well, if we have questions, we need to talk to the auditor, so you can forward the email, that's fine, on there.
Okay.
So the other question was, the gym equipment for the new high school,
Yes.
which I see the invoices, or the purchase orders. So the question becomes, why did this not go through the project?
As I said to you before, that it was eliminated, and you have that, and it was highlighted from F&F. So then we purchased it in 2 separate payments, one out of the general fund and one out of the 25 account, so that we would have weight equipment in a new building for a year. And we got it in December because it had to be ordered.
But
That was the decision, because it was removed, it was cut out, and I sent you that from the architect.
I have that.
And highlighted,
And that
right.
email from the architect
Right.
says that the Permanent Project Building Committee.
They reduced the FF&E, so it was
Correct,
reduced,
but you
right.
could come back because of budgetary things, but you could
We,
come back.
we
towards
had
the
the
end
money,
of
we had
the
the money, and we did not want the students to go another year without having a facility. So we purchased new equipment, and it's in place, and it's being actively used. So we would have an empty room for
No,
a year?
yeah,
I mean,
but
and we
they-
weren't gonna move old equipment
The build,
that's
the
35 years old.
Scott, can you stop talking over the mayor and just let her speak, and then when she's done speaking, you speak, please?
Oh,
Thank you.
I thought it was the feedback in the microphone.
So the question became that those invoices, I know you ordered them last year, and that's fine, but if they were submitted to the project and went to the and was paid out of the project on there,
FF&E was reduced, that's why we did
that, but then that money, instead of coming out of your budget or account 25, would stay there. It would be.
We were told to spend the 25 account down to 0. We've been
No.
through all of this. We
No.
were directed to spend it down, which we did.
Well,
It's
I did not,
$5.
I did not see any motion in the Board of Ed minutes to authorize you to spend down to $5. So I'm not arguing that point. I'm talking about the equipment and having it go through the project. And whether it gets reimbursed by the state or not approved, that's not the point. The point is, if it goes through the project, it doesn't come out of your operating budget, and that money is allowable to go into the 2% fund, into your account 25.
That was spent in June. That money was spent in June for that equipment before July 1. So we were under the direction to spend it down. That's where the money came for the storage building as well. We had two major projects that we wanted for the students. We wanted the weight room, and we wanted the building of the storage shed in the back. That's where that money went. And we've said this multiple times. So we're going over and over and over what we've already, you know where we got the money, you know what fund it came from, you know what we purchased with it, and that's how we did it. We can't say it any different way, because we've said it the same way every time.
Yep. Well, I'm just,
That's what we purchased.
I was at that meeting at the building, at that meeting that Monday night, where they eliminated the gym equipment.
Right.
They eliminated the building equipment.
right, and I have the email from Rusty that says that they could come back.
I don't remember that.
It was February,
Yeah, I was at that meeting that
That they
night, and they eliminated the gym
that they could come
equipment.
back for the cost of
That
the
I
gym
don't
equipment.
remember Rusty saying that, I'm sorry. That I don't remember, I just remember that
We
at
weren't
that
gonna
particular
go a
meeting,
full
they
year
eliminated.
without a weight room and we weren't gonna move 35-year-old equipment into that building. So
Why?
And that's the
Wait a
night that
minute,
they
If
moved
it's
it.
operational, you should have moved it back. I mean, that's ridiculous. It was good enough to go over to Silly
Well-
Putty Factory and work on it.
it's really not.
Well, then we put our
had
kids in
we
danger
had
working on it.
No, we had it at price, when you take it apart for a third time, you can read the cover letter, and you can see that the person who set the police station up and who did our waiting room, the cover letter is right there with photographs of the old equipment, everything that you're speaking to. It's of zero value because of the age of it. It's been taken apart 3 times. If you move it a 4th time, it becomes compromised. It's outdated. It served its purpose in the warehouse for the students in the summertime and during that year to have a place to go and exercise.
Is it still at the warehouse?
So what?
Is it still at the warehouse?
It's still sitting there.
Are we paying for anything?
We're not paying anything. Now, I want you to go through and look. It was purchased through a donation originally from Rick Jeremiah, who was a retired teacher. Go to the second page. It was the Rick Jeremiah Junior Procter & Gamble Take It to the House contest winner as being a huge New York Jet fan. They flew him to Hawaii, and then they gave him $10,000, and then he donated that gym equipment to us back in 2010. Also, the Ed Foundation donated $2,700, and a number of those pieces were from the Touchdown Club. And Mark Basil, the coach at the time, gave that equipment to us. So, you know, that's how we put everything together. When I bought the equipment, it was 10 years old, 15 years ago, and he clearly states that 25-year-old equipment that's been moved 2 to 3 times, disassembled, reassembled, it's now outdated. It's like a 25-year-old car.
So we're scrapping that now?
Was sitting there. It was inventory. It's not worth anything.
We basically should just scrap it, right?
Well,
We shouldn't be storing it.
Yeah.
It's worth the scrap now.
Yeah, just scrap it, because it's unsafe to use, so scrap it.
There's pictures of the new equipment and the old equipment.
Just before you say scrap
Hey,
it,
Scott,
there
as far
is
as-
there is a process
As far as the
for
plates,
town assets to get rid of.
as far as the plates,
it.
those are
Scrap
probably
it.
sell for something, right, or no?
Yeah,
It's worth the public.
Pennies on.
I know, I get that, I'm just saying.
just mark permission.
I'll take it.
basically. There's a process.
But you did have an inventory with Dave Colombo and John Florio.
Yes, yes, yes. I saw,
I found out about that, yes.
yes,
Yeah.
well,
I didn't know about it until I got a call from the warehouse that there were 2 guys.
well, they supposedly, Permanent Project told us that they were taking an inventory of the equipment before it went over to Silly Putty. So that's when I'm assuming that it was done.
I just found out.
I don't know.
Because they called me because there were people looking at
So, but the reason it was asked is because the budget, the audit was not complete I know our audit is not done, And it has been stated a number of times at the Board of Ed meeting that your audit wasn't done either, so it was news to me tonight.
Our audit was done in December.
No, but
It's done, it's been done.
I know, but the board has asked several meetings that I was there, January, February. The comment was made that they didn't know how much was going into account 25
Yes.
for you because the
Yes.
audit wasn't done.
Your
So,
audit, your audit, we're waiting for you to say how much is coming back to us.
right, but that,
Our part is done. Your part will then dictate how much we're getting back in 25.
well, that's where the whole thing, you already know that you're getting at least $461,000.
We don't know that, you told us that.
Well, no, you issued the PO.
We don't know what we're getting back. Until you finalize your audit, then you're gonna confirm what it is.
But you issued a purchase order and encumbered $461,000 out of last year's budget, so you know that you're getting at least that amount back, if not more. That you're getting that much because you encumbered it on there. So you know that you have at least that much going into the 2% account
Correct.
on there. So you do know that you have, there could be more, and that's,
We heard two different numbers around. So,
well, that was the PO that you issued, so you know that's for
it could
sure.
have been higher too, I think, correct? Than the 473, I think it was.
Yeah, there's still a couple items over time.
Were outstanding. So we didn't know a number. It was 473 up to possibly 616 or something like that. Something.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking on the equipment, because if you put it in the project, you could get the money from the project to go into your account 25. Because it would,
I paid for some of it out of 25 and the general fund, so I took it out of 25, the first initial purchase.
I didn't know that. I only saw the purchase order for the 80,000.
We've said it a couple of times, that we took the first
So,
one out of 25 because we were spending it down.
so that is where that came from, along with the building, the money that was encumbered for the.
83,000 for the storage building.
Right.
And we have that on the agenda in April with the full budget. John Florio's prepared to go with everything.
Okay, so just let me finish before you keep interrupting, is you had money coming from another account that was going to pay for the athletic storage building, which is fine on there, but it was encumbered out of your operating budget. And the money was coming from another account on there.
I don't understand what
No,
you're saying.
the 4 purchase orders for the athletic storage building are in the general fund, and that's where the purchase orders are encumbered to. Nothing was encumbered for Fund 25 for the storage building.
No, I didn't say Fund 25. According to the document that was sent from your office to reconcile with Anthony on the monthly expenditures, there was a receivable for $73,500 from food service.
Yeah, cafeteria. health
Right,
insurance.
the savings and
Uh-huh.
insurance, which is what Scott explained to us in July when he came and asked about it. So that money is in addition to the money that was allocated from the town in your 23-24 budget. That was in addition.
That amount was credited to our health insurance line, which in turn increased our bottom line, and that's how we were able to cut those 4 purchase orders out of the general fund prior to the fiscal year end close.
Well, according to the statement that I have that was given to Anthony from your office, shows the 73.5.
Yeah,
Coming, yes.
73.5 came from the cafeteria, that is correct. And that cafeteria check is credited to our health insurance line, which in turn increases our bottom line available And then that's how we did the 4 purchase orders out of the general fund prior to the end of the fiscal year.
So we'll just talk to the auditor rather than, well, because we don't have any information from the auditor in regards to this. So we'll just wait and see once what they say, because that money then could, depending on how it's explained to us, there's a possibility. It looked like you were encumbering money that was coming into the account, so it would be like a double encumbrance on it. Because it was money that we didn't budget, they were taking it from food service, which is fine, coming over, so it's not in their operating budget. But we'll talk to the auditor and get it straightened out and see once, because it's potentially money that could go into the account 25, as you call it, on there. So we have a lot of meetings to get before April 22nd, because that's when we're finalizing the budget. So, does anyone have any other questions?
I have different questions.
That's fine.
I would like to ask Carter some questions, if I could. Okay. I realize that 75% of the budget is already covered in terms of salary and benefit. But being a former educator and actually still involved in education, I was kind of taken aback when I looked at the amounts that you have in the budget in terms of teaching and learning, and that most of them, there's no increase, but you do have an increase in math. I'm just curious as to, why math, special ed, and athletics, that's about it. How do you manage to do that without, with new information coming out, and you cannot increase any of those other areas? Or is math like your focus for the year?
Math has an increase for some of the instructional supplies and materials that we're using. We try to balance all curriculum areas with the tight budget. Some years the language arts is a heftier expense. It depends on the curriculum implementation model. During the implementation phase, there's a heavier investment in the new materials and programming. So that's usually why you see the discrepancies between those, like science, social studies, math, language arts. But there's a significant reduction over this budget recommendation in the teaching and learning accounts.
So you're comfortable with what you have
I
in
mean,
there?
we'd like more, but we know we're not going to get it.
What was the high dosage tutoring grant? It was for 1 year. What exactly was that? And was that only a 1-year grant?
That was a 1-year grant, and it even ran short of the full year. The state ended up cutting it short, so we had put in for a larger grant, but they expended it quicker. So what it was for was 6 through 8 math, supporting students. It's called high dosage tutoring, so it's a model that allowed us to hire tutors to work in small groups supporting kids who are not at standard specific to math. We showed really good results with it. It was positive, but the funding dried up, and we had to let go of the employees.
Well, when you had the NASC evaluation, what were there recommendations for you for the high school in terms of the academics?
Yeah, they had a lot of recommendations around kind of the curriculum improvement and linking our curriculum documents with the vision of the graduates and kind of in the K-12 sequence. And that's recommendations specific to the high school, digging a little bit deeper into what the curriculum maps look like in unit planning. And the high school did a great job and received commendations on that work.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
And you guys did very well with the AP exams. Something's bothering me here. I got distracted. How many educational coaches do you still have?
We have 2. So
Two?
we have
And what
one
are they?
math, one language arts, K-5 only.
Only K-5?
Yeah. We'd love to have more of that too, but it's a tough budget.
In terms of the SBAC tests, how are you guys doing with those?
We present that every year to the board, so we're up and down. We have some real great areas of strength. We have some areas that we continue to work on. And we try to do that in a balanced way. None of our efforts are laser focused on just improving test scores, so we're trying to improve the instruction overall from our teaching staff, but also the way students problem solve and think is a big focus. And we figure if we attack that, we'll continue to improve the test scores.
I appreciate your answering my questions. I just was concerned when I saw there's very little increase in the area of teaching and learning, but I see that you have such a large percentage in terms of salary and benefits. But I also think of teachers as being part of teaching and learning.
As do I, and that's our most important part, it really is, that's the backbone.
And I guess my other question would be for Sarah. How do you account for the fact that you might get additional kids in, like, say, during this spring or in the summer that need outplacement or that you need special services? Do you have a contingency account? How do you manage to be able to accommodate?
All of the unexpected things. Yeah, and it happens all the time. I get emails, random days where we have students who might be moving in or students who are maybe in foster care that are close to North Branford, and wherever they come from, whatever their educational needs are, we're responsible for. We plan according to what we know is going to happen, and that's where excess cost comes into play. And so the excess cost that we receive is for the year that we're having those expenses. And so if we get a student, right now we have 9 students who we're able to account for under excess cost. But if we get a student who's currently outplaced, the likelihood of that student qualifying under excess cost is pretty high, just based on what current tuition rates are. Historically, we used to have students who were outplaced that still didn't meet that threshold. All of our outplaced students meet that threshold now because tuition has gone through the roof. So we plan for what we know is coming. We don't build in those buffers for replacements because just as likely as we might have a student move in, we also might have a student that moves out. And we constantly have plans for returning students to district when we think that they're ready, students who might be graduating or aging out. So those are all possibilities that it's kind of a moving target. But we do our best with what we have, and again, that's the benefit of the excess cost.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to ask those questions.
Yep, no problem. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, so now we're going to go on to capital. Okay, so I know Public Works revamped their capital request. So in the easiest way to see it, because I didn't see a page in our binder or what was sent to us, is in the book, is in this book on capital. So right now, equipment reserve for Public Works, the original budget was $548,000, and there was an update to that the town manager had sent to us, which brought it down to $369,000, I believe.
That's right. 379.
Or 379? Okay. Franny, do you want to come up, please? And just kind of go through. I know there's a few things have changed in regards to. Okay. So you want to just walk, I don't know.
All right, so the first lease payment you see at the top, that's our last payment on the truck that we just received just before winter. We lost 2 trucks before the winter started, two out of service, cracked frames, so they're dead in the water. So we're putting in one large truck, and then, like Danny said before, there's two, and then that truck is $150,000, and then we're buying one truck to replace two trucks. Now, I know you're not gonna believe this, but the other night before we got to this meeting, we lost another truck, another engine. So now we're down 4 trucks. So Danny and I were talking that maybe we could push out this, take the third truck and do a 3-year lease instead of a 2-year lease. And then, we're gonna try to, replace the engine. We're gonna see how this year ends up and do the work ourselves, just to get that truck back on the road. So we're gonna end up redoing it. That's gonna be about between 12 and 15,000, because we're gonna end up having to take the cab off of it, so we might as well just rebuild the truck back to, so it's gonna last a few years.
What year is that truck, Randy?
I'm not 2013. 2013.
How many miles on it?
Around 100 or so.
Thank you.
So we gotta pull the cab off, so we need all new cab mounts and everything, so. So we're in a pickle, unfortunately.
How long does it take you to rebuild it?
That truck there, it'll probably be, I would say it's gonna be 3 months.
You've done a truck for 3 months?
Oh, yeah. Well, right now, we're down that's 2 grounds trucks. So one truck 88, that's done, and that's truck 20. So they're down 2 trucks, and the highway's down 2 right there. Yeah, 2.
Yeah. 88 was an old ambulance, so it's on its second life already.
So when you rebuild this, do you go out and you rebuild the engine?
No.
Do you replace the engine?
Yeah.
So it's a diesel, right?
No, that's a gas job. So we'll do that in-house.
And that's like 15 to 20K?
The motor's around 9, and then all the incidentals that's gonna happen, because I'm sure the muffler, all that's gonna have to be changed. All the cab mounts are gonna have to be changed. Radiator's gonna probably have to be changed.
Fran, is that like a plow truck or is that like a mason dump? What?
That's a mason dump, but it is a plow truck.
Okay.
Everything we have is plows.
So after this is done, would you estimate the life of the truck now?
The one with the motor in?
Yeah, what's the life of it?
Yeah, well,
5 to 10 years, depending good or bad. New truck's a little over $100,000, so at this point, I'd say do the engine.
Okay. Thank you.
Fran, is there anything you can get from the state to hold you over?
I already have 2.
Okay, yeah, right.
I mean, anything we get from the state is they're replaced it for a reason. We bought one this year when the other 2 trucks went down. We bought an old truck just to get it as a spare truck. That it actually worked out because we needed it.
Yeah.
So, you're talking, these trucks that we're replacing, mind you, we're talking 1988 and 1994, Dan?
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, we did well. If you think about how old the trucks are in the salt and the use that they get. Our stuff gets used. I mean, it's
No, I was just wondering, though, in the interim, while you're down so many trucks,
well, it's a good time for the year to be down. Even though we're doing the construction now, but, stuff is coming in to get serviced. But we're gonna be hurting on the grounds end of it because, like I said, that's 2 of their vehicles that are gone. And one truck, we put money, the 88, we put money into it. I mean, we're dumping good money into it, and we got no results, to be honest with you. And of course, you're wasting money.
So you can, by fixing the one truck, putting the new engine in, spending between $12,000 or $15,000.
I'm gonna try to do that out of this year. I gotta wait to do, it's gonna happen in June. We're gonna, Anthony's gonna be involved. We're gonna be closing out our accounts And if we could dig up money just to pay for the, at least get the engine part, and then the following year, if there's other miscellaneous parts, we could take it out of the maintenance account.
Okay.
That's if we can get, you know, I can't tell you if there's money there or not. It's either gonna be in this year or it's gonna be in next year. You know, it's gonna be out of the maintenance account, whatever we do.
Or the other option, if we wanted him to start working on it now, is we could give him the authorization to go ahead and take it out of contingency. So that he can,
That's a good idea.
so that he can start working on it and we don't have to.
I mean, I could start, I mean, I could really start it, but again, if I don't have to, at the end of the year, if I don't balance out, then we'd have to go to contingency, because I'm gonna have a whole 15,000. And again, I don't know until, you know, next, you know, we're talking the end of May, June, when you can really see what's gonna be left for the budget, once I.
But if we commit to contingency now on it, then you can definitely go ahead and just get it done.
You can get the motor, right? You can buy the motor.
Right. So,
And the rest of the truck is solid? I mean,
Yeah, it's in decent shape. I mean, it's an older truck, but again, you know, you're talking like Danny said, it's 100, it's probably gonna be 110,000 by the time you dress a truck like that.
because
You know, by
the only
time
thing
you
that
put a
worries,
plow on it, the plows, you know, the days of the plows being 5,000, or well, for those trucks too, they're up to 10. The big trucks are over 16,000 now, just for the plow.
so the only thing that worries me, and I'm sure you wouldn't be even offering this if this wasn't the case, but, you know, you talked about some other trucks having cracked frames and they're toast now. I would hate to see us approve this money, you guys do all that work, and then something like that happens to this truck, and then, but you're saying the frame's solid, the rest of it's
Yeah,
good?
it's solid. I mean, again, I don't wanna jinx myself, but, you know, the transmission could go after, you know, that'll be the next thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like this 88 truck, we just spent quite a bit of money over this year on it, and we didn't get our money back out of it. That's why we decided to park it, because
okay, so.
everything's on a 3-year lease except for the 2932. I did a 2-year lease on that, but we could bump that out to 3 years, and it softens the blow a little bit on the.
Well, as presented with the 2-year lease, from what was presented to us in the budget, Public Works was originally $548,000, and with the revisions Franny has made, is down to $379,000, so that's $169,000. But that money was coming out of the fund balance to begin with, so it doesn't have an effect on to the mill rate at all because it's coming out of fund balance. But with that savings, I think we need to have the discussion, and you can think about it when you can do it at the next meeting, is we need to start a capital reserve fund for vehicles.
So we're not getting hit with it.
I'm all for that.
And to put some of this money, some of this savings into the capital reserve.
We need to do that for both garage as well as fire department, so that it's not.
Well, it's one account.
Yeah, I'm saying no, that we're feeding two different entities.
And we had that 2
It
years
should,
ago.
having you
Yeah.
say that now makes sense to do.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
something that we need to do so that it's not always going to be such a hit.
And the only issue that happens here, you know, because we kicked the roadside mower out another year again, but next year, you gotta, what you see on this page, except for the first 105, is their leases, so it's gonna come back,
Right.
for the next 3 years.
Right.
Have a roadside mower. You have one now, the roadside mower that's getting older?
I'm sorry.
You have a roadside mower that's getting older?
Yeah. Well, both of them. My other one's a 95, and the other one is one that we bought from the state, actually.
You might have to get you sheep or something.
Goats were good.
Goats.
So one of the other things that came up in our budget workshops is the curbing and sidewalk at the Edward Smith Library for $60,000, which is not it's not proposed, it didn't come through on the manager, and I really think that that is something we need. It's a safety.
It's a safety issue.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a safety issue and concern. And so, you know, we have some savings from Public Works, and since it's fund balance, I think we should use it and should go to the sidewalk at the library. And then the other thing is for the Board of Education. Last year when we talked about their plans on their capital, there was a big subject on paving, and we got recent costs that were sent to us after our March 25th meeting with them. The approved budget for the Board of Education, the number one priority was paving Jerome Harrison and TVES. And we were told last year that it could be split up over 3 years on there. So I would like to see some it's definitely maintenance of the schools, and we need to do that. And some of the areas are safety areas too. The Board of Education can pick what areas first. The only issue that, and I don't know how much we want to commit to it, is that there's the quotes that we received from this year that were just done total $512,000 for both of the schools. So if we divide that up over 3 years, there's a little bit of a cost, because there will be cost increases as you go along. But we need to start that project. And last year we talked about going on a 3-year paving plan and coordinating it with Public Works so that we have it, you know, when Tilcon is here or who's ever paving, it's at the same time the equipment is in town here, so that we can.
So we're gonna do a third of it now. We'll do a third this year, a third next year, and the final third year.
We started a little in JHS,
Public
right?
Works manage that project, or is
It did,
Public
some
Works
pieces did
manage
fix
that
it,
project?
nothing in front.
Who
They-
manages that project?
We can send it to Permanent Project Building Committee, because that's what we've been doing, and they coordinate with Franny. And the school would have to let us know what their areas, what are their priorities in a 3-year project? What would be their priorities? Now, on the Board of Ed, the capital budget that was approved by the Board of Ed, I'm not exactly sure where that number came from, because they had a cost of $375,000. But the quotes that were sent to us total $512,000.
So my question is, the paving's in the Board of Education budget?
It's not, it's in capital.
Capital.
It would be in capital.
Okay.
So Rose, what's not in that, like at Jerome Harrison, it was never figured curbing, and it needs to be done, the front. You know, that's another thing that, you know, we talked to her blue in the face about this, but that busway should be granite curbing. We're spending money on, these things aren't that old, and you look at TVES, that school when it was built, and that curbing in front of that building is still pristine, and we keep putting concrete curbing in it, we keep having to repair it, it's a wreck. Look at this building, you know, coming in here, we're
I
spending
personally
money,
don't have
and
a
the
problem with
library's
that. I
another,
would rather,
the library's another one.
Right.
We're spending,
Well, we discussed the library doing
14
that,
years old.
putting in granite curbing for that reason, because it's such a tight spot for you to come in with your plows.
It is more money, but it lasts.
What's it like, double, Franny, or what's the percentage?
I don't think it's double. I mean, I don't want to I don't give numbers unless but it's not double. I don't think it's double. But again, you know, and I will say this, TVES, we have a patch that has to be done there this year. The whole, the east side of that parking lot, I think it's east side, right? Or the side that's facing the firehouse it's crumbling. I mean, there's nothing there.
The front end or the, where the map was?
No, the front,
The front.
not where the map is, it's in the parking lot. And, you know, so whether, I don't know, and I'll be happy to talk with John and the superintendent to figure out, you know, where do you want to go? Do you want to go down to Jerome Harrison and pave? Or should we go up there and pave?
So that,
They both need to be done.
yeah, well, here, according to these quotes from March of '25 that were sent to us, I don't know, I'm assuming they were done recently. TVS is at a cost of $225,000. There was no map, so I don't know if that's just one section or not. Jerome Harrison is $287,000, but it was divided into 3 separate sections.
Right. Well, you know, I gotta say this, I would not do it in patchwork.
No.
Because once they get there, who's ever doing the paving, it's gonna cost you a lot more money. We're gonna keep paying fees for bringing in equipment. So when we come in there,
Plus
you'll see it when we do the high school. We're gonna do all that repair work in the high school. We're gonna rip, you know, it's all there. We're gonna rip it out and pave it. We're gonna start June 15th.
Right.
You know, and by 2 weeks, it'll be like new.
Okay. So I'm, you know, this, for TVS, I'm not sure, but I just have the cost here. I don't know if this is, I don't think it's patchwork, but I'm not sure this.
Who pulled that quote? John, was that John?
John, is that our quote, John? You remember, John? What's that? The quote, the numbers.
For TVES.
So those are quotes that we got a year or two ago.
They're not from 25?
Yeah, they were updated in March. They just redid their state bid July 1, so it's probably going up, there's escalation. TVS, that's probably a valid quote to pave the whole place and do the asphalt curbing, because the granite is in place since 1960 and it's fine. JHS, that, I wouldn't go by that price, because there's a lot of concrete curb that has to be redone. Should be swapped to granite for longevity purposes, so if you want a shelf-ready project, I would go with TVS.
When you're looking at the granite curbing, are you talking just the curbing that's on the school side? We're not talking about interior curbing on the, you know, the turnaround, bus turnaround? Just the school facing?
We're mostly traffic.
And then you're gonna do an asphalt curbing on everything else?
Asphalt out in the lots.
All the way going out to
the
the
JHS in the parking lot, get rid of all that concrete out in the lots and just do it as asphalt.
Okay. So right now, there's currently $250,000 for a capital project under education, so we can just reallocate, if we want to keep that $250,000, just reallocate it for paving. And the Board of Ed can decide where they want the paving with Fran, they can talk to Franny and decide where they want to have that done on here. So we can keep the number.
Should we get the number for the granite curbing as well and try to, I mean, I'm assuming if we're gonna.
Well, this isn't the whole project.
Yeah, but the curbing has to come at the same time, isn't it?
Well,
Not for TVS. TVS doesn't need it.
Yeah, that was already done. We already
Yeah.
That's been done since 1960. For
Well,
JHS.
I think that's all she's talking about right now, is that.
Yeah.
I thought she was talking about both. We do one project or both projects?
It depends on what they want to do with their, how they want to divide it. Jerome Harrison, the pictures on here were divided into 3 sections. TVS, I think, is just the one, that whole parking area that.
So Jerome is the bus drop-off and the long drive. The kids drop-off area, parents drop-off on the backside where the preschool is?
Right here's the map for Jerome Harrison. So, if it's section, I mean, section 3 is the back, so if it's according to the number, if it's 1, 2, 3 as priority, section 3, which is the back, is the 3rd priority. The first priority is the turnaround in the long driveway, the bus turnaround. That is.
Because this here, the backside here had partial pavement because
Right.
they extended it, they widened it, which was
Right.
an absolute necessary project.
Right. So at Jerome Harrison, it's the bus entrance, the long driveway, the turnaround is area 1. Area 2 is on the other side, like where staff park and its parent pickup is in that parking lot, and area 3 is the back of the school. So the green section, which is the main, this cost was $120,000 roughly. This does not include granite curbing. That's just the paving. So it's $250,000 that's in the budget right now, so we just have to decide. And we can think about it, we can decide when we finalize the budget on the 22nd. And that will give them time to talk with Franny to prioritize where they want to have it
But
done.
Franny did indicate that it makes sense to do one whole location, so we're not bringing in machinery twice over and paying for that.
Yeah, I mean, Jerome's gonna, the curbing there is gonna be an issue, so that's gonna be a lot more money. The sad thing is, it's the second time around too, in my career, paving these lots, including high school, so. You know.
Could we do all of Jerome with the granite curbing and then just patch TVS, or is that going to create a problem?
Well, he didn't want to patch TVS, he said.
Well, I'm saying either way,
do it now.
no matter what, you have to patch TVS, it's gotta be done.
Just do the TVS, hey, granite's already there.
Yeah, we're gonna, I mean,
DBS is gonna be the cheapest one, cheaper one to do if you have.
and you can get the whole project done at once, because it's just, there's no granite curbing at there, it's just the asphalt.
It'd be nice to just do that one now.
Just get it done.
And then Jerome, we can look at it and look at the granite, and then all that work will be done before they grind up, and, you know, 'cause that's the following year's project. I mean, I go with John, and we'll go and look at and Danny, and look at both schools, but either way, if you don't do it, you have to do the patch at TVS no matter what, because it's like gravel.
Well, then, to do a patch, to me, is throwing money away, to do a
Yeah.
patch and not.
We're going to end up
not do it.
reclaiming it and then having to put it back in there anyway, which,
So it doesn't go to waste. If you just put that patch in there, next year when you grind it up, it's part of the base.
correct.
But, you know, we'd rather just do the whole thing, because we're there.
Right. Okay,
It costs money to move the stuff around, that's what I'm getting at.
okay, so if you can talk to John and see what their priority is, Scott, and see what their priorities are, but we have $250,000 in the budget right now. So we can just allocate that to paving. It's not gonna change any, it won't change any the way it is on here.
I think it's a question for you.
Mhm.
Franny, do we have a paving machine in town?
No.
Do other towns, any other towns have their own paving machines and actually do some of their paving?
Some do. Years ago, they used to have it. It's a very expensive machine to have, and you have to have a very big crew. It's not like you're bringing 2 guys out there or 4 guys. It's like our whole crew would be out there.
Well,
So
not
it
saying that
doesn't-
we'd need a crew, but if we had a machine and we could do our own small jobs, I mean, it's a
Well,
whole
you
other
can rent-
project,
you can rent
but
it.
is that something we consider doing, or is it not even worth
We've done it in
doing
the
that?
past, we've done small patches, we've even done them on the roads ourselves. But at the end of, honestly, at the end of the day, it's cheaper to have somebody come in and do it. Because.
Answers my question right there. I was thinking, if it was something that wasn't a lot of money, do we just have that machine, so we have a really bad area?
Yeah.
We could take care of it this week.
Yeah. We could do that, I could rent the machine and, yeah, we could do that, but at the end of the
really
day,
small.
if there's something else not getting done.
Because it sounds like we have a few spots that need to be done now. All right, thank you for that.
Jeff knows, I mean, Jeff's road is being done, he asked me how big of the crew was down there.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
a
it's a
sizable
major
crew.
operation.
It's decided, and they have a, you don't realize how much equipment being brought in to do that. I mean, it's not just
I'm not talking doing roads and whole park lots, I'm just thinking if we had to do
Yeah.
I mean, if you had to do like a small patch, I'm sure they could get the asphalt and then, shovel it in and you can get a roller. You're not gonna lay it down one of the reclaim machines. Those machines do more than one
Let's
thing.
put
They
it
do the
this way,
reclaim, they chop it.
Labor-wise, I could call a contractor in, a local guy, and come down there, they'll be in and out of there within an hour for TVS, and our crew would probably be there for over half a day, because
With a bunch of
we're not
equipment that
all
we have
set
to
up,
buy.
you know, we'd have to set our crew up to go do it.
Yeah,
So the time, the labor wasted, it's not worth it.
yeah.
That's why we got out of doing it. It's just a lot.
It makes sense.
But, I mean, if we have these 3 projects, if we pick the one, it sounds to me like even the other 2, though, there's actually safety issues for the kids. We have curbs,
Right.
we got holes, so we're gonna have to do the one, but at the same time, we're gonna need to, because we're not gonna do anything until next year on the next one, we might have to spend a little bit of money and patch up.
I mean,
Right,
I'll
so
advocate for a GHS. It
You know, we
needs
gotta
to
get
be-
one done and get the other 2 safe,
Right,
right? We gotta be safe.
Yeah.
okay.
And library also has to be.
Well,
That's a tripping hazard.
Right, so the sidewalks that,
Fiduciary, we have to do.
yeah, so is there a way you can get us, because we want to get granite curbing at the library? And the estimate that's in here, I don't know that that was granite curbing.
Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it?
Was it the
As
60?
an alternate,
Yeah.
but I believe the suggested 60,000 included granite.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay.
She said yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Lauren, that was correct. That's-
Yes, it does include the granite.
Okay. So, okay. So we don't have to make the decision tonight, but just think, because when we finalize this, so we can take 60,000 from the 169,000 savings from Franny's and put it towards the sidewalks at the Smith Library on there.
When does Smith Library go offline for the HVAC?
We're still, what's the
We have-
status?
We have not even been notified about the grant status yet, so we haven't had a ruling on that.
So we can't wait until then to do it?
Well, but do we, I thought it was, we already approved it in the CIP and it was, because it's not in this CIP, so we already approved it. So it doesn't matter how much we get on the grant, we already approved the CIP, in the CIP plan for $1 million,
$1 million.
right?
Yeah, that's true.
$1 million is in the CIP from last year. The auction was 1.8. You were applying for the $1 million grant, steep grant. So you might only need 800,000 out of the million if the steep grant comes through.
Right, didn't we do 1.8? We approved the 1.8 just for the.
That's just for the purpose of it.
Yeah, for the purpose of getting.
Right.
We're only
Grant.
doing it, we're only.
Right, so we're waiting to hear, but they can still, they could still start planning for, because it has to get done. So they can, the Permanent Project Building Committee can start talking about it and planning to see once what the, and get quotes on the plan.
That they can do, they just can't start the work yet.
Correct,
Right.
but they can do the preliminary stuff in regards to it.
Do we have an idea when that type of decision will be made with the steep grant?
It's supposed to be this month.
It's this month?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can start the other work, I mean, start the planning phase of it
And then we would
also.
look to possibly coincide the granite and the sidewalk with that of that, you know, to do at the same time. Because you're gonna be offline, so you're not gonna have people going in.
Right, I mean, I would think that the minimum of 3 months, but it could be longer.
Well, and because the other thing as far as sidewalks goes, Permanent Project is also looking to do the sidewalks at the middle school as part of that project. So if we can coordinate, if it's the same contractor when they get the cost to do,
You're gonna put the sidewalks in the middle school on the same project as the library?
well, not the same project, but
But I'm
at the
saying
same
underneath
time, under the same, at the same time frame, if you have the same contractor, you might save some money.
So then why don't we put that same one in effect for other areas that need curbing? Right, or does that not make sense?
Well, there's actual, at NBIS, I don't know if it's curbing or if it's the actual sidewalks.
It's
It's both?
well, MBIS, we downsized the job from original plan, so the front main entrance that faces north, north, that's gonna get granite curbing and sidewalks.
So we're talking about the same thing. I'm a big fan of economies of scale. So if you could loop everything in and look for a bid that brings in economies of scale because they're doing all this work, we're guaranteeing them X amount
Right,
of work.
it's just,
Might as well
it's
do
two
that.
different projects cost-wise, but yes, that's the whole idea, is to do them
That should be our goal for.
at the same time. Because the NBIS would go under the bonded project, and I know we have to make a little bit of change to that
Just
bond
different funding
resolution.
source.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but to get that done, so that project is completely done on there.
If you have both jobs lined up, they'll just go from one to the other. It's
Right.
simple.
Which
Yeah.
makes sense to do.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna add on the capital, we're adding the Smith Library. On the Board of Education, we're moving the $250,000 to paving on there. And
Removing, you said?
well, it's moving from the TVS gym HVAC to paving. So right now, there's $250,000 for the HVAC at TVS.
Gotcha.
And we're just gonna move that 250 to the paving under education.
Thought the floor was the concern, the new floor.
So I was on, because of the humidity.
Yeah.
But, so the repair to the TVS floor, from my understanding, was not due to humidity. It was due to a water leak that got in there. And
That's what caused the damage to replace it. But you need to maintain a proper environment to maintain that gym floor. Just like you have to maintain a proper environment in your new high school to maintain that gym floor.
but
So if the building builds humidity, which that building does, you risk ruining your new $350,000 gym floor.
And that school also did not, that floor was in there for 50 years from when the school
Different type.
was built. So if we have to delay putting in air conditioning a few years to get the paving done, to do it, the other floor, in my mind, anyone who speaks out in regards to it, their thought process on it, but the original floor was in there for 45 to 50 years without air conditioning. And I think
What school?
TVS,
Oh, TVS, okay.
yes.
I thought you were talking about Jerome Harrison. I was
No,
just calculating years
no, that's
ago.
not a wood floor at Jerome.
But John, the floor is not, it's not leaking anymore, the building's not leaking anymore though, right?
No.
Right, that was fixed, and then the floor was fixed.
It was coming in from outside.
Yeah.
The problem's been solved. That's why you had to replace the floor.
Yeah.
It wasn't insurance, it was an insurance claim, the insurance company paid for the floor. But you want to maintain the floor.
Is that floor different than the old floor?
No, it's the same type of floor, it's a different type of installation. You don't use the old style installation now. You use different style installations on gym floors now. They're more of a floating floor than a permanent nailed down floor.
Yeah.
Helps with sports injuries and stuff like that to have the floor. So the floor moves.
So there's gaps where moisture can get trapped and
Yeah,
potentially makes it
no.
more humid
When
environment.
they install the floors now, they put plastic strips every 6 rows, they put a plastic expansion strip. So the floor could move to the environment. Well,
Before we sealed them.
you need to maintain the proper environment to maintain the floor from buckling or moving or heaving or, just like your high school, we went through hours and hours of arguments and permanent project about maintaining a proper environment for the gym floor.
When this floor was installed, John, was there a recommendation for the environment? Did they
Yeah, there always
actually
is.
give you a paper of a recommendation for the environmental support?
There, I'm sure in our warranty for the floor, it's written in there somewhere.
Can you provide that to us?
Yeah, we'll take a look at the warranty they gave us.
John, the floating floor that you have in there, is that kind of like the ones that people are putting in their houses now? I'm sure it's not the same exact kind, but I know there's ones that for your house, you can buy, different grades, but there's some that are basically waterproof where moisture does not affect them. Like you can buy the better quality one, it does not affect it at all.
Oh, it's
So does it have that type of floor where it's
It's actually
waterproof?
it's actually a maple gym floor, just like any other
It's not
Oh,
gymnasium.
So it's not one of those,
Oh, you're thinking like.
No,
the-
it's not.
not a floating
No, it's
floor.
actually, it's the way it's installed under the floor. Is the old floor was installed, it had tracks embedded in the concrete, and they permanently attached the floor to the tracks. So you basically had a wood floor on top of concrete. Now they put what they call a sleeper system underneath the floor, so the floor moves, has a little bit more cushion to it, but it's still a maple gymnasium floor.
is there a moisture
Company,
barrier under
the
that?
company that installed the gym floor at Totucket Valley, installed the gym floor at Quinnipiac, installed the gym floor at Michigan. They have a list this long of universities and pro courts that they've installed. It is a nice floor. The floor came out beautiful, but you want to maintain it. Maintain the environment. Plus, that's the last piece of the puzzle at Totucket Valley. We spent years trying to air condition that entire school, and that's the last piece of the puzzle. Plus, the heating system is not that great in there, so that's a combination, new, updated heating system and cooling that we're asking for.
How old is that heating system, John?
It's original. Listen,
Okay.
both projects have to get done.
Yeah,
I
right.
know that. Yeah.
Right, it's just.
It's hard to find the money. Totucket Valley, when it comes to paving, if you're gonna put it out 3 years, you have to pave Totucket Valley first. Don't patch it. It's been patched 1,000 times. Pave the entire site, and then we could do Jerome Harrison in stages. You could do the front and then do the back, if you wanna span it out 3 years. But Totucket needs to be done first.
Okay, thank you. Okay, fire department. Yep, so there's 550,000 in, for capital, under fund balance for fire equipment reserve. On there. And so, who is going to talk about fire apparatus?
Chief Colangelo will come up and talk about it.
Okay. So, there's 550,000 was the request from the department on here. Can you just review what that is?
Yeah, it's, there's 3 items. There's payment number 3 out of 4 for an ambulance, which is $80,265. There's payment number 3 of 5 for the replacement of Tower 1. That's $220,000. And then there's payment number 1 of 4 proposed for the new engine 1 at $270,000.
Okay, so 300,000 we have to do for the
Yes.
ambulance and Tower 1.
Correct, you're locked into those, correct?
Okay. And so then the other 250,000 is for engine 1
Correct.
on there? Okay, so based on previous information that we received, a new engine is 2 to 4 years out? Is that?
At least 2 years, some manufacturers have gone to 4 years.
Okay. And so do we have to make payments on the truck while we're waiting for it?
Only at delivery.
Is there any down payment that is
There are
required?
prepayment discounts, but I don't think, talking to.
Yeah, I emailed the salesperson today to confirm, Chief Colangelo had talked to Mike Pinto, is the gentleman's name, and he said that that's correct, you can order today and have no financial commitment until the truck physically delivers to you. There are prepayment options if you'd like. Basically, you put down $950 to give you a 10% credit of $9,500. If you put down $475, they'll give you a $7,500 credit. But there is no requirement to financially commit except putting a purchase order in. The key is to lock the price in today. That's the whole purpose of as Chief can talk to you about, the price have escalated. We were talking before, the engine 3 that we bought just a few years ago, the naked truck itself was $660,000, and now you're talking, neighborhood of $950 to probably close to $1 million just for the truck itself, as the escalation occurs of prices. So I think this email really kind of cements the fact that we're just locking in the deal, getting a price together. Chief can draw up some specs and talk to the company involved, and we'll lock in the deal. But as far as the financing piece of it goes, they don't want a dime until the truck gets delivered.
What we're gonna have at that time period, if we say yes to this, we're gonna know if it's 2 or 4 years, or is it?
Oh, we'll know. Yeah,
So
when
we
we
hear
sign a
the budget
contract,
for that budget
if
cycle.
when we sign a contract, there will be a projected delivery date.
So what about if we look to do this, and we're not gonna, maybe we can forego this cycle, not payment, but then put in, as if we were paying it in a sinking account, in the next 2 to 3 cycles, and then we'll have at least something to put towards it in a lump.
Do we have something coming off lease next year, Anthony?
The ambulance finishes in 26, 27, so you'll have 80 freed up at that point. And then the tower comes off in 27, 28.
Like Anthony said, to get locked into a good price point and get in that apparatus into queue and get that thing delivered, hopefully in about 2 years, you can defer those payments out, save a lot of money in price increases.
Do you think
over the
that,
next 2 years.
do you think we would have it for 27, 28?
I would hope so. I mean,
Yeah, you wouldn't know until you confirm.
there's so many moving parts with it. Every
This is D1?
manufacturer is different, but they're looking between 2 to 4 years depending.
I'm just thinking if we push off the first payment until 27, 28, it washes with the tower.
So the whole idea is just to get in the contract, the purchase order, it locks in the price, no matter what. No down payment.
Like I said, there are prepayment discounts, but
They're nothing.
it's
Yeah,
not
it's
really,
prepayment
it's not like it
discount.
used to be, let's put it that way.
It's not an incentive.
We just want to we want to lock it
Yeah,
in. We want to lock it in.
Because you're looking at 3 to 6% probably next 2 years, every year for the next 2 years. So if we can forgo that, get ourselves.
I think if we do anything, we lock in now and we wait until 27, 28 for first payment.
Well, we have to see when we're hoping that it delivers in 27, 28.
Well, even if it doesn't, even if
Yeah,
it
but
comes
if
a
it
year
comes
later.
earlier, then we have to pay.
Yeah, I don't know that that's gonna
I would say the
happen.
earliest would be 2 years.
All right, so earliest is 2 years. I still think that we allocate something small, even if it's 50 grand, and put it into a sinking account. It won't hit us as hard, and we'll have that much less of a payment come 27, 28. It's a good practice to start, so that we're not hitting big bills.
Well, this is also out of fund balance, so this is not affecting the
Does
mill.
not affect
The mill rate
Correct.
on there. So we can take money out of the 550, they really only need 300,000 to make the lease
Current
payments that we
obligations,
have.
correct, yep.
We could, do 350 and you'd still have 200,000 left.
Correct.
And we have approximately $100,000 left from Franny's. So we can look at that and allocate some of that money to go into the sinking fund.
Correct.
And then we can look at some other projects that we didn't do that we may need to do. On here, to see once, or you use that fund balance in some other way, or keep it in fund balance. So my question is, what is our fund balance after?
That is a dandy question.
And what percent are we, because I know we have to keep a percentage.
We were at 14.99 at the end of '23. Again, we're working with the auditors, as everybody knows, to try to wrap up '24 to get a firm number, which then ties into Scott as well. But based on the numbers that I ran for on a budgetary basis, it's going to be another year in the black, another positive year. So I think we put the 1.98 here and then 750 towards the budget. I wouldn't go much more than that, to be honest with you, without having firm numbers, because we have the 750 allocated towards the mill rate and then the $1,098,000 here.
Well, what I'm looking for is to put more than 750 to the mill rate. That's why I'm asking the question. I know 750
Yeah.
is in the budget towards the mill rate, but if we can use.
Could you put it here and take money out of the budgetary columns? I don't want to have a $800,000 hole, let's say, next year. It has the same net impact if you take the money out of the budgetary column and put them in the fund balance column, so it's a non-recurring kind of situation. It does your same impact about getting
Well, we could,
lower mill rate.
but the problem is, we worked really hard to get
I know,
budget funds
I know.
in capital a number of years
I
ago
know.
to equal 1 mil, so
I
we
know.
were in the 1.2 range.
I know.
And then we came down
The reality
into the
set in, yeah.
$400,000 range, so
Yeah.
now we're trying to build it back up slowly.
No, I agree with you.
And so I would prefer not to, but if we have to, I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
But we need to get back to not only having a capital reserve for equipment, but we also need to work into the budget, getting some money that's there that we know every year for capital.
Right.
We have money in the budget so that's.
I agree with you.
So
You're
we're
right.
trying to build that up, so I would prefer not to take it
Yeah.
out of there. But I also want to take more of the fund, if we have room in the fund balance to up that 750, because that will have a direct impact on the mill rate.
I'll reach out to Andrew tomorrow to see where he is. I'm trying to get some firm numbers for us.
Okay. All right. So the other things in capital from the fire department, besides the capital, the equipment reserve, the extrication tools, I know you asked for 2 Jaws of Life, and so right now it's currently 1 in the budget, to do 1. Replacing the Lucas, great demonstration, by the way, so that's in here. There's $35,000 towards firefighting gear, and there's $15,000 towards fire marshal vehicles. Is that a new vehicle?
That's a replacement.
Can we manage another year without getting that?
We have some other funding pots that we're looking at possibly to acquire a new vehicle, a different vehicle for the fire marshal. We have, when we sold Tower 1, we had $5,500 from that. There was insurance claim proceeds from another situation. So couple those together, I think we'd be able to get something for the marshal that would satisfy and not make them on the most wanted list, and get them on, we could probably get rid of that.
Anthony, is there any insurance money coming back from the marshal vehicle that was obtained by someone else for a time period?
I don't believe we've gotten that far. I don't think there's much damage. That was it's below our deductible, let's say, so it's not going to
Okay, what's wrong with the car?
be.
Someone took a ride.
Come to find out.
Bruce took it for a ride.
Come to find out that the Crown Victoria has basically a universal key.
Didn't take long.
And the universal key got into the hands of the wrong person, put it that way. And a week or so ago, out of his driveway in town, the marshal's car was taken. And went joyriding up to Tolland and was recovered in East Windsor, where they They did smash some of the radio equipment inside, the old radio, fortunately, our Kenwood radio. They did do some damage to the inside, but again, if you saw that car from the beginning, it wasn't much to be looking at as it was, just holes in the exterior from rust and everything else. It serves the purpose after his accident to have something for him to do his duties in. Again, could we find something else with those 2 pots of money, probably close to, I would say probably close to $10,000 we have between those 2 pots, not using any of these money, we could probably find something reasonable for
We don't have
him.
anything in the town for a hand-me-down type thing?
Well, the problem, I think Jimmy.
Police cars, right?
Well, Franny, I think, wants to say
The fire
something.
marshal car has been taken out of service. I stripped the plates today. That will not be going back on the road. It's a disgrace. And anything that we're getting back from the police department, I gotta be honest with you, you guys are putting good money into not a good vehicle. And we gotta stop it. All these pound cars, I'm telling you, it comes out of my budget to keep them going, and they're not worth it. I'm telling you, it's good for a spirit car or whatever, but to have people on the roads with them,
Okay.
not good.
So Franny, you're saying all the town cars, we basically should be
Yeah, I mean,
putting
they're all,
money
they're all,
into?
they're all hand-me-downs, and, you know, once the police department gets rid of them, we may get 1 or 2 decent ones to use as maybe a backup down here. The town, I both said this for 10 years, the town hall should get 1 new car so that they can go to Hartford with pride and hope that we know they're gonna come back. But, you know, seriously, before when we had the town had a car, you know, they used to use that, and that used to come down, but now all, you know, the car, they got a lot of hours on them, and we get very few cars that are in really good shape.
Right.
Is there any sale
Every car
outside
that
of
comes
them?
in, we have to fix it.
Can they be sold to the
We sell them
public?
at auction, we sell them at auction. The Crown Vics get money because they use
Van,
them
looking at the
for
park,
spare
that's
parts for
pretty
taxis.
Yeah.
Hey, Bruce, excuse me.
And, you know. So, that's the story.
We appreciate the input. We don't know this unless we are told.
Just give the fire department, cut them off.
Yeah.
So,
So I think the bottom line is we probably have 2 pots we could put together to get something decent. If you want to get rid of that, then the commissioners here, they can opine on it, but I think there's a way around it if we have
There's
to.
another option.
So what's
There's
he
another
driving now?
option.
Since the car's-
Personal vehicle,
Yeah, he's driving his truck.
Oh, that's not purchased.
yeah. You don't want him showing up at an inspection or something in his personal vehicle. You want to have something.
Spare engine.
Do we have, Chief, question for you. Do you have you're working with Durangos now, right?
Yep.
And obviously, we don't need a Durango set up like a police car. It has a lot of other things, but is there some, again, I love economies of scale. Is there an intermediary that we could talk to that maybe those type of vehicles can be purchased at a lesser expense for patching them?
Yeah, I gotta go up with our vendors on the state contract, and they can go through a list of items that would work for them.
Okay.
Sure.
I think that might be a
Aren't those like
directional.
They're like 40-odd thousand.
Are they that much?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I thought
Guys,
they-
they just proposal that to the fire
Scrap that
commission
idea.
too. Yeah.
I
that's
thought,
like the
well, that's
portion of it.
equipped as a police car.
I think what we need is a
No,
plan
there's,
from the town
there's an
manager.
ad, there's an ad to outfit it as a police. as a
Oh,
police
it's an
car.
add-on.
Yeah.
Presented to us.
Oh, well,
That's
Yeah.
what we need.
try it.
you mean for other town vehicles?
Yeah, for what we were just talking about the town hall vehicle and town
Town
vehicles.
Kias,
That needs, a plan needs to come from Mike, and they should be marked with the town seal on them.
yeah.
I mean, there should be, I don't know why we have unmarked cars, but we shouldn't have unmarked
Should
cars.
be all purple.
Okay.
In all fairness, that Crown Victoria was,
Dr. Detroit.
It was
I'm sure
Grim
his
as
purpose
well.
and
Okay, so we should keep the 15,000 in, or you're gonna get back to us by the next meeting as to
I
what?
will get back to you and I will work with the marshal to see if we can find something on there using the state site. The state has an interior site that towns have access to. We've had good luck, and Fran mentioned one of the vehicles that he bought recently. We bought public works vehicles, we bought town vehicles. I'll work with the marshal and see what's out there.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any?
if you have any questions about the new engine, primarily why I'm here. I'm also work with Laura here. Any other questions for us?
No, I mean, the big question was, how far out, do we need deposits, are there any discount, you know, that type of thing, what our plans are, and,
I was less than impressed with the prepayment discount. That's not what we've had in the past with other manufacturers.
Right.
Things have changed, and, you know, with build times and lead time and supply chain issues.
I forwarded that email out to all you that I got
Okay.
from the
It's
salesman.
just- it's a game changer. I never thought in a million years I'd be asking for almost $1 million for an engine.
okay.
I made mention to this privately to Bobby, but is it possible, and you may say no to this, but is it possible to avert, I mean, each intermediary was clearly getting some aspects of payment on it and going directly to E1 or going directly to peers, or, you know, having some other options there for some discount?
I don't think we'll ever do that.
No departments do that? They don't go direct to manufacturer?
Are there consortiums or maybe tag orders with other departments? Or they'll make it a discount for multiple, you know, ordering multiple apparatus from the same manufacturer, which happens in the larger cities, larger departments. We'll replace 2 or 3 apparatus at one time. There's also discounts with that, but every manufacturer has different rules and prepayment discounts. So I was less than impressed with what I've heard today with that. I think locking into the good price point and deferring those payments out, getting in queue to get that apparatus replaced.
Okay.
I appreciate your questions. If there's any more, let me know.
All right, thank you. I have one other for, not for you, is Carrie Haynes here from Park and Rec? Carrie Okay, so in your presentation to us, you had talked about, I know, I see you've taken off the resurfacing of the courts at Northford Park.
Correct.
But your other big one was replacing one of the vans for the seniors, because it doesn't have air conditioning. We're using it now, but, you know, we'll be down to 2 vans, and with all of the increase between the shopping and the trips and the medical appointments and everything else, you need another van
Correct.
on there.
Yes.
And so, is there,
I had just mentioned to Bruce, I had worked with DT the other day, and on that state site, there's a state van, a 2015 Chrysler Town and Country, awesome condition, it has like 11,000 miles, it has the original tires on it still. So the way the system works is I have to notify the keeper at the state that we're interested in the vehicle. They then will come back with a price, and we have like a week or 10 days to proceed or not proceed with it. So I'm waiting, we're in the stage now of, if they come back with a decent price, and we think that it's something we want to do with, we'll send Barry up to Hartford to the site to examine it, test it out, make sure that it's cool. And then we'll come back to Mike and you guys and say, it'd be a contingency transfer, I guess, at that point. So that's, I'm just waiting for the girl from the state to give me a price.
oh, so you don't have a price
I don't have a
yet?
price yet, no.
Okay.
But it's an awesome, it's got a little ding in the back, there's the only thing wrong with it, everything, it's the interior pictures, everything is perfect. And one of the comments that I think that Sarah had made, as they bring patients to, like, say, Smilo Cancer Center, they can't bring the vans in the loop, you drop them off at the curb, because they can't bring the vans to drop people off properly. So why would you bring an old person and drop them up at the curb to have to walk inside, but you could bring a van into the loop, makes it more manageable and more appropriate. So a smaller vehicle, you know, hopefully a little more economy than the vans. It's great for the onesie-twosie kind of thing. So I'm hoping that it pans out, and I'll let Mike know as soon as we have a firm number from the state.
How many passengers is that?
It's a town and country. It's got 2, and then 2 in the back, probably 4, maybe about 5, probably 6 passenger with the driver. It's got the double seat, and then the seats on that actually go into the floor, to the stowaway seats. So if you needed it for trucking stuff around, you can use it for that purpose as well.
So, just to clarify, what we're talking about are two separate vehicles?
I was going to say, that doesn't sound like what you needed.
It is what we need. and what we need.
Okay.
So the capital proposal was for a 16-passenger vehicle. So we have a fleet of 4 vehicles right now. We have 2 8s, a 13, and a 24. One of our 8s is going to be taken out of commission, and then our 24 is in pretty rough shape. It also, it served us well. That was a vehicle that we did buy with Anthony through the website, and it served us well for while we had it. But it's a little bit too big for some of the day-to-day stuff. It does serve us well for the larger trips. So with losing an 8 and a 24, it's going to just give us the 2, which is an 8 and a 13. We'd like to, our capital request was for the 16 passenger. So we have that larger capacity vehicle for the day trips, for the larger events that we do. And eventually we would like to add a minivan so we can do those curb-to-curb medicals.
Which is what Anthony's talking about.
Which is what Anthony's talking about. So I'm definitely in favor of that, like exploring that, as well as
Getting a 16
Yes.
passenger? Okay. And do you have an estimated cost? And okay.
I do. It was attached to our original capital request. The estimated cost, and this is a quote from a month ago. So it was for $124,000 for a 16 passenger. Through Matthews Bus Company, they are the hub for these vehicles in Connecticut.
Okay. So
I did compare, we've also done the grant vehicles. Just so you know, the grant vehicle, the last one that we got is a grant vehicle, and it did take us from application to receiving the vehicle nearly 3 years. So the turnaround time on that is just a little lengthy in comparison to a 90-day turnaround through Matthews Bus Company.
okay. So it's roughly 120,000 if we buy it outright. So if we use some of the fund balance from Public Works, Fire Department, we could buy it outright, or we could divide up the payments and do it over 2 or 3 years. So that's a
If you have the cash, I just buy it.
yeah,
Just
it's
buy it.
120, she said.
It's
roughly.
gonna, but that's one of those things that you
just
get
buy it.
right off.
Care, how many times a year do you use that large, the
The
larger?
24 passenger?
Yeah.
We actually used to use it a lot more often for our after-school program. We were using it weekly at least. Now we're using it monthly for our Mohegan Sun trips. But that 24 passenger, when it's great for, I mean, it served us well for sure. We actually realized in using it is that it's a little bit too big, especially for the roads and driveways here around town. So we can't use it for like a regular transportation run. It's too big. There's just not enough room in most of our neighborhoods to navigate it.
So 16, that's why you want.
That's actually what we had. We had 2 16s years ago, and they served us very well, but they just aged out. And then we went a little smaller and a little larger, and just through trial and error and driving the buses, that seems to be a good large capacity size for our program needs.
Okay. All right. So that gives us more thought to think about for the.
I'm just thinking, if the larger ones don't get used that much, are you better off just buying another small one, and then even if you're going on those longer trips, just taking 2 vehicles rather than one big one?
We could take 2 vehicles, and that's what we've been doing now, because the 24 passenger was out of commission for a little bit. And for the larger trips we did, but when we take those 2 buses right now for the larger trips, then we can't do medical transportation that day, and it impedes upon our daily transportation, because there are seniors that come in Monday through Friday just to the senior center to have lunch and socialize.
Well, that was the
So we
only-
have to give something else up in order to take
Yeah.
that second vehicle.
Yeah, that was the only concern I had, was the
We
amount
have
of
to-
drivers available, so.
Well, that's true too. We have two very part-time drivers. So then when we have those additional vehicles, our senior center staff drive, but I mean, there's been times as assistant director, when I was in that role, I was doing medicals because we just didn't have the drivers. So
So the 16 is what?
it really would be ideal. It would be ideal to have a fleet of 4 with a 16, a 13, and 8, and the minivan for safety.
And then the other question is too, we were just talking, is if you're only going out once a month, is it feasible to just rent, rent a van? Or
Contract out.
Or contract out with,
So
like a
we've-
bus company or something like that?
That's a great question, and we've contracted out for some of, not recently, but in previous years, we've contracted out to like DATCO for, theater trips and activities such as that. But the cost of chartering a bus like that through DATCO, that cost filters down to our seniors, and it just doesn't make those activities and day trips affordable for them. If we had a 16-passenger, we would certainly use that more than the 24 because we could use it around town.
Okay.
How does that filter down to the seniors? I didn't follow that.
The cost of the bus?
Yeah.
Well, because we have to pay for chartering a bus, and out of the senior center, the senior center account is a revolving account, so seniors pay for, theater tickets or extra transportation, so.
So they pay for, on
So you
those
put that in
types
the
of
cost.
trips, they
We have to put that
pay.
into
There's a
the
fee
cost. There's a
involved.
fee.
So if you're chartering a bus, the fee would be higher.
There's not a fee if we take them to the
Correct.
Speed Opera House, but if we charter a bus, then that cost has to go somewhere.
But couldn't you, well, I'm just asking the question.
No, that's
like,
okay. Yeah, no, please
couldn't
ask.
you rent a bus, rent a van, rent a whatever?
Sure, but we still have to, where could we pay for it? Like out of,
Well, I'm not sure. There must be a creative way. The only reason why I'm asking is if by using it once a month to spend whatever to buy the bus and own the bus, maintain the bus and so forth.
But they wouldn't use it once
we
a
would
month.
use a 16-passenger more than once a month. The 24-passenger limits us to the day-to-day and around town. We could navigate a 16-passenger much easily than we could a 24 in the driveways in Northford.
So what are you doing currently without the 16 passengers?
So if we're over 13 passengers for a trip, let's say to Mohegan Sun that we do monthly, we have to use 2 buses. We have to, our 13 is actually not working right now, so we would have to use 2 8s if we didn't have the 24.
But then that takes out from medical.
Medical transportation and daily
It
transportation.
limits them on the other transportation. Something has to give in regards to it. So,
And that also takes 2 staff out of the building as well.
so,
And because our driver hours are limited, we take a regular daytime staff and a driver, so that whoever's, we're borrowing from one to give to the other.
I don't understand why we do that.
Don't retire yet.
okay.
If you do, I'll drive you around.
There won't be room on the bus for me.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have any other questions on capital? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
For that. And here's my agenda. Okay, so that handles questions for the 24-25 budget. Now we are on public comments. Please come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and there is a 3-minute limit. So if anyone has any comments.
Hi, my name's Amy Conroy, 67 Caputo Road, right here in North Branford. Mayor Angeloni, your tone and accusation specific to the Board of Education with the intent of paperwork and the tone and how you spoke to them, it actually leaves a deeply and unsettling, unprofessional impression, and also undermines the hard work and the transparency and dedication of a board, educators, and administrators that are consistently acting in the best interests of our students, staff, and community. Such a message and tone implies bad faith, blame, and honestly, it's just disrespectful. You also talk over some of your own town council members. And as somebody who's worked in corporate for a long time, it's just disappointing. I'm asking that you please focus on solutions and maintain the mission of the best interest and treat all of our departments in the same tone and the opportunity. That being said, our education is a foundation of our strong community, and if we're not investing in them, we're actually deterring our long-term success. The technology, curriculum updates, and facility improvements are dependent on the funding that we needed. You wouldn't use a 5-year-old cell phone, you wouldn't be using a computer that's 5 years old, you wouldn't be using gym equipment or paying a rental fee for a gym that's 25 years old. So it just makes sense. The other side of it is our future workforce is in our classrooms right now. High quality education prepares students for jobs of tomorrow. It prevents future costs on social services, unemployment, and corrections. Deferring the cost for repairs ultimately costs us more in the long run as the cost of materials and services increase. Cutting corners today costs us more tomorrow. The reduction of investments will ultimately directly impact our other revenues. The budget already recognizes how we get revenue from building permits, inspections, recording, and filing fees. If we do not have a strong education system, people aren't going to move here, and that's going to drop the revenue that we very much need in our town. That being said, please consider supporting our education and our emergency services. Those are important values. And if we don't, it's going to cost us deeply in the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Judy Bannon, 28 Forest View Road. As you all know, I'm a board member, but I need to make clear I'm speaking for myself and not for the board. I was curious to know the non-lapsing facilities management account that is going to be established, if it would include the Board of Ed buildings. Certainly they don't do the maintenance on the buildings, but they do take care of the grounds, so they maintain the grounds of the buildings. So I'm just curious if that would be included. I would like to talk about the 2% fund. Last year, the Board of Ed was told that the electrical credits were to be put into that fund to use for this year's bills. I would like to remind you that the 2% fund belongs to the Board of Ed and is used at their discretion. It is our only contingency fund, whereas you have money that you can go back to. That's all that we have. So, excuse me, I've been freezing for 3 hours back here, so I'm shaking a little. So I would say that if and when we get that money for this year, I would ask you to not consider that when you decide whether we'll receive money going forward for next year. They're two separate things. And please don't think that you can put money here and take it from there. For the people at home, I hope not for you, I would like to just state that every year the town receives money from the state of Connecticut to be used towards the Board of Education budget. It basically subsidizes our budget. This year, you're going to receive just over $7 million to be used for the Board of Education budget. Since 2000, you've received more than $180 million that was used toward the education budget. So I think it's only fair to remember that when you look at our budget, $7 million of that is already paid for. And finally, interestingly, I've watched all the meetings so far, and all the other departments have been treated with a great deal of respect. There's been laughter. There's been encouragement. Some have even been told if their budgets were cut too much, they could come back and ask for more. The disrespect, the rudeness, the side comments, and the jokes that have been directed towards the Board of Education is not behavior that I would expect to see from our elected officials. And I sincerely hope that we can move forward in a more positive manner to improve the relationship between the two. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, this time, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion has been made, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.